నేను కనిపించాను కదా, నేను కనిపించాలంటే దీన్ని నొక్కోవాలి. దీన్ని
అడ్మిన్ ఎవరో తెలియదు.
ట్రైబల్ వెల్ఫేర్ కర్నూలులో ఇద్దరు ఉన్నారు.
డీడీలు ఉన్నారు. Good morning, everyone present over here. We'll start our program by invocation by Maruti. Over to you, Maruti.
जय 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 प्रिय भारत जनयित्री दिव्यदात्री जय 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 प्रिय भारत जनयित्री दिव्यदात्री जय 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 शत सहस्र नर नारी हृदय नेत्री जय 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 शत सहस्र नर नारी हृदय नेत्री जय 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 प्रिय भारत जनयित्री दिव्यदात्री जय जय सस्यामल सुश्याम चला चेलांचल जय जय सस्यामल सुश्याम चला चेलांचल जय वसंत कुसुमलता चलित ललित सून कुंतल जय मदीय हृदयाशय लाक्षारुण पदयुगल जय 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 प्रिय भारत जनयित्री दिव्यदात्री जय दिशांतगत से कुंत दिव्य गान परितोषण जय दिशांतगत से कुंत दिव्य गान परितोषण जय गायक वैतालिक गल विशाल पद विहरण जय मदीय मधुर गीय चुंबित सुंदर चरण जय 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 प्रिय भारत जनयित्री दिव्यधात्री जय 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 शत सहस्र नर नारी हृदय नेत्री जय 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 प्रिय भारत जनयित्री दिव्यधात्री
Thank you, Maruti. At the outset, I express my heartfelt gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor D. Jamina, beloved Rector, Professor K. Sanjarani ma'am, our young and dynamic Registrar, Professor D. M. Mamata, Dean, School of Social Sciences, Humanities and Management, Professor D. T. Bharati ma'am, Head Department of Education, Professor T. G. Amutavalli, and our organizing team members, without whose continuous support and encouragement, the webinar on women education perspectives would not be a reality today. I welcome you all to the webinar. I welcome with a lot of gratitude all the resource persons who are readily accepted our invitation of short notice. I welcome Professor Hasin Taj, Dean Faculty of Education, Bangalore University, Bangalore. I welcome you, ma'am. It's my pleasure to welcome Professor Kannan Maudgalya and Eric and Mehru Mehta Education Technology Chair, Department of Chemical Engineering, IIT Bombay, Mumbai. I welcome you, sir. As we all know, the uniqueness of the year 2020 is COVID-19 pandemic, and par with this, NEP 2020 policy was the biggest effort made by the government of India after 34 years to revise and revamp all the aspects of education structure, including its regulation and governance. The key focus areas are socio-economically disadvantaged groups. The broad categories of these groups are gender entities, socio-cultural entities, geographical entities, disabilities, and socio-economic conditions. Ensuring equity, separate strategies will be formulated for focused attention to reduce gaps in each category. different strategies regarding gender entities. NEP 2020 envisages that Government of India will constitute Gender Inclusion Fund, safety and rights, provision of equal opportunities to bridge gender gaps, thirst on designing policies and particularly for female students, and also gender sensitivity to be an integral part of curriculum, and strengthening KGBVs up to grade 12. Hence, the need of the hour is the work-centered curriculum and vocational education training courses need to ensure that productive work does not become a tool for promoting gender stereotypes. It would be a challenge to design a pedagogy in order to empower women, the girls from diverse backgrounds to overcome disadvantages rather than reinforce their subordination. In this context, the current webinar aimed to focus on different perspectives of women education in India in the light of NEP 2020. The topics are selected in such a way to address the different strategies to be formulated to ensure equity in providing equitable quality education for all female students, including vocational education training courses by our renowned and eminent speakers. This webinar also provides a critical appraisal of NEP 2020, particularly various perspectives of girls' education, that is women education. I hope with our effort in organizing this webinar to quenches your thirst for knowledge in this important and focused area of NEP 2020. I welcome all the participants from different parts of our country. Thank you, one and all. Now, I request Professor T.C. Amatavalli ma'am to take over the proceedings of the program. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. G. Sunita Bai. It is an honor to introduce our Vice Chancellor, Professor D. Jamuna Garu, for this program. Madam is formerly Professor of Psychology, ICSSR Fellow at Research for Research on Aging, Department of Psychology, Sri Venkateshwara University, Tirupati. Madam was a recipient of AGI Tilak Award. Madam has Sandoz Foundations for Gerontological Research Award of Anzam Nations, Switzerland, UNFPA Award of International Institute on Aging, Malta, AP State Best Award and Meritorious Teacher Award, Senior Fulbright Award, Penn State University, USA, Faculty Award of SICI DFAIT, Canada, Commonwealth Award UK, Visiting Gerontology Award STUNB Canada. Madam had so many awards to her credit. Madam was trained in social gerontology at the International Institute on Aging, Malta as UNFPA Fellow in 1992 and advanced training on gerontological research at Gerontology Center, Penn State University in 1996 to 97, visiting scientist at TMIG Tokyo, Japan, 1998 to 99, honorary professor and Commonwealth Fellow at Salford University, Manchester, 2010 to 11. Trained in advanced techniques of counseling from KMSA Penn State University Counseling Center and Family Counseling at INIA, Malta. During her tenure, Madam, with 40 years of research and 30 years of teaching experience at SV University, Tirupati, had directed 21 national and international research projects, edited 15 books, and published more than 100 scientific articles in national and international journals. Madam had organized and attended various national and international conferences and seminars. Madam had delegated her duty as coordinator of UGC SAP DRS program from 2011 to 17 and had been a HOD from 10 to 12, chairperson BOS 13 to 16, served as member of editorial boards of national and international journals. Madam was a counseling consultant of Police, Family and Legal Counseling Services of Andhra Pradesh and in MNCs. Madam had served as professional associations of psychology as president of AGI from 2006 to 2008. Madam had delegated as Academy of Psychologists 2015-17, Vice President of Association of Health Psychologists, Hyderabad 2016 to 20, and Madam had been a honorary President of SSFAAGs and Vice President, Joint Secretary of many other professional bodies. Madam had extended services as member of Standing Council SV University from 2015 to 17, Academic Senate SV University 2014-17, Institutional and Executive Council member of SICI India, Canada 2009 to 2017. And Madam had been a member Indo-Canadian delegation to Ottawa in 2017. We are very lucky to have you, ma'am. And over to you, Shyam, to air Madam's message to the participants and to us. Thank you, ma'am. Over to you, Shyam.
Namaste from SPMVV. Our warm welcome to the distinguished resource persons, Professor Mani Mekalai, Professor Kannan Maudgilya, Professor Haseen Taj, and the convener of this webinar, Dr. Sunita Bhai, co-conveners and faculty of Department of Education, and my dear participants. I'm very happy to share that the Department of Education is organizing a series of webinars by involving reputed resource persons across India and abroad by selecting various areas of NEP 2020. And today's webinar is with a focus on women education in general and in specific to NEP 2020. I'm sure participants of this webinar would get wealth of inputs from these resource persons. Enjoy the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable message and for your valuable wishes to us as the organizer of this national webinar. Thank you again so much, ma'am. Now, it's a privilege and it's a very lucky thing to introduce our Dean, School of Social Sciences, Humanities and Management, Professor T. Bharati Garu, who is the professor of English of our university. Madam had been working with us from 1990 onwards, and Madam has various educational qualification to her credit. And Madam's expertise in researches in American literature and subaltern of fourth word literature. Madam had completed major research projects in number, that is on a history of Telugu Dalit literature, poetry of the oppressed, a comparative study of Dalit and South African poetry. And Madam had published around 58 papers, both national and international, and Madam had presented various papers, 56 in numbers, including 13 invited talks. And Madam had published 6 books, that is the novels of John Gardner, A History of Telugu Dalit Literature, the critical response selected essays in American literature, and Dalit issues and challenges, the critical pursuit, selected essays in literature, Dalit contemporary concerns. And Madam had edited 3 books on writing resistance, women's literature, Telugu Dalit poetry today. And Madam had also given a creative writing on Freezer in 2017. And Madam had translated 2 books, that is on contemporary Telugu short stories in the regime of darkness. Madam had guided around 15 PhD who had been awarded and ongoing 7. And Madam is also guided 3 MPhils. Madam had organized 6 conferences. And Madam had visited various countries on academic pursuits and academic areas. And Madam has many honors and fellowships, awards to her credit. That is Olive I. Reddick Junior Award for 2003 by IACIS Hyderabad, IUC Associate Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, Simla, July 2005, September 2006, and October 2007. Atraya Literary Puraskar, Atraya Kala Peetham, Sulurupeta in 13/3/2006. Best Teacher Award of AP State, September 2015. And Excellence in Education, Lions Club of Tirupati, Gurajada Award 2015. And Dr. Ambedkar National Award in Education, Dalit Open University of India in 2017. Madam has various strengths to her credit, and Madam had held many administrative positions as NSS Program Coordinator, Head of the Department of English, Coordinator, Center for Ambedkar Studies, Modern University Hostels, Dean, School of Social Sciences. And Madam had been a member of different governing bodies as UGC nominee on the governing body of different colleges, UGC nominee on the governing body of international colleges also. And Madam had been a UGC nominee on Planning and Monitoring Board of Kalasalingam University, Tamil Nadu, UGC nominee on Advisory Committee, Center for Study of Social Inclusive Policy, MS University, Tirunelveli, and UGC nominee on SAP Advisory Committee, Department of English, Vishwabharati Shantiniketan, West Bengal, and member Academic Council, member Enquiry Committee of different university, member BOS of different universities, and Madam had also been expert for the selection committees for the different colleges and different universities in and around AP. And Madam had been a member on NAC peer team, and Madam was also a member coordinator on NAC peer team for different colleges and universities. And Madam had been a selection committee member for different academic institutions, like subject expert in selection of PGTs, UGC observer in CAS, and subject expert in selection of assistant professors and professors of different universities. We are lucky to have you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting our invitation, and over to you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am. I'm due to various commitments. Madam is not able to connect with us now. She will connect in later on during the period of this national webinar. Thank you, participant.
Good morning. I have joined now.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I have joined. What's the problem?
Sir, good morning, sir. We give 5 minutes, sir, to introduce you to the gathering.
Okay.
Just 5 minutes. Okay.
Yes,
What do you?
Hello. Hello. Suni.
Carry.
Hello.
Continue,
Can I start?
Renka, it's audible. It's
Okay,
audible.
can I start?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. Respected dignitaries, colleagues, research scholars, and the participants of this national webinar on women education perspectives. Good morning to one and all. On behalf of Department of Education, Sri Padmavati Mahila Vishwavidyalayam Tirupati, a warm welcome to you all for the first session of this national webinar. The topic of this session is training women through spoken tutorials for education, employment, and empowerment. The resource person is Professor Kannan Moudgalia sir, the chairperson in the Department of Chemical Engineering, IIT Bombay, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Sir has received a BTech degree in IIT Madras and PhD degree in Chemical Engineering from Rice University. Sir has acted as a visiting professor to the University of Alberta. Currently, Sir is acting as a director in the non-profit Wheels Global. Sir has published quite a number of papers in the various national and international journals. Sir has published 4 books. His areas of interest are simulation control and education technology. At present, Sir is focusing on massive IT skills education through spoken tutorials, open source software, and on affordable laptops. Sir has received Google MOOCs Research Award for his offline capability in spoken tutorials. Sir has also received a Pandit Deenadayal Upadhyaya recognition for Re-Engineering India 2020. This is very, very brief about Professor Kannan sir. Now I request Professor Kannan sir to take over the session for the deliberation on the topic training women through spoken tutorials for education, employment, and empowerment. Over to Professor Kannan sir.
Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Renuka. I'm really delighted to get this opportunity to address all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So can I share my screen?
You can share, sir.
Yeah, okay. So can you see the slide?
It's visible, sir. It's visible, sir.
So until what time do I have? Is it till 11:30?
Yeah, sir. Till 11:30.
So I will finish maybe by.
Sir, you can. Sir, this is Professor Amudavalle, sir. You can extend, sir, because due to unforeseen reason, the first speaker was not available. So we have time, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
So what we will do is, I have come prepared for about an hour talk, maybe 1 hour, maybe 1 hour, 10 minutes. After that, we can spend some time in answering your questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And, I can also stop in between and ask questions in case people have any doubts or something. I'll be able to clear them also. We can spend time. So let me get started. So I'm going to talk about how we do this, how I propose to do this training for education, employment, and empowerment. Being an, I guess, being an engineering institution that I'm a faculty member there, we will also like to talk about some of the tools that we developed, that we use. Of course, it is not restricted only to engineering. It is available to lots of other people, for example, also. So let me get started. The outline is as follows. I'm going to talk about open source software. We call it FOSS sometimes. We call it FLOSS some other time. I'm using FLOSS. I'll explain to you why I've introduced that letter L. Okay, basically it is open source software. That means it's available to everybody free of cost without having to spend even a single rupee. They can start doing some nice things. And promotion through two of our projects, Spoken Tutorial and FOSSI. And then I'm going to talk to you about constructing what I call as pyramids of excellence. This is something available to everybody. Your university can also start constructing such pyramids, for example. And I will talk about women empowerment as and when required, as and when it is possible. I would like to point out this method that we have developed is extremely useful for women in particular, and I will tell you why. And then national education policy. How does it align with the national education policy, for example? Okay, let me first start with some nomenclature. What is FLOSS? Normally we say FOSS, free and open source software, but this free, what does this free mean? Is it mean free of cost or is it freedom? It turns out that freedom is a lot bigger concept compared to free of cost. Freedom, it gives you many more opportunities. Let me actually tell you what is the freedom we are talking about. There are 4 types of software freedom. One is ability to use it, ability to modify it and use it. Ability to modify the software and use it means you should have access to the source code. You are able to modify it. So you are able to, sorry, let me do it in a proper order. Ability to use it, ability to distribute it, ability to modify it, and ability to distribute the modified code. So these are the 4 freedoms. Okay. And so free of cost gets automatically included, or there could be some small commercial model as well. But the moment you have the freedom, you can do a lot of things. So to indicate that free stands for freedom, we have introduced this French word libre. Libre means freedom. So we call floss. So you should remember this. Floss means free stroke libre, so that this FL can be thought of as freedom and open source software. Why floss? We can use it legally, free of cost. Many people think that you need a license means that you have to buy a software. Floss also comes with license. It comes with the BSD. It comes with a GPL, GNU public license, for example. So if somebody says, are you using licensed software? And suppose you are using floss. What is floss? For example, Firefox is a floss. Okay, Linux is floss, right? And LibreOffice is floss. There are many examples. I will mention some of them here. All of them come with license. So feel free. You're not cheating anybody. You're not lying. You're not stealing. Floss means you're using everything legally without any problem. Okay. It allows learners to become better programmers because you can actually go and see what is in it, how it is implemented, and nobody is trying to keep anything a secret. This is extremely important for an academic, for a student, for example, who wants to learn. Imagine giving a car to an auto mechanic and asking him to, okay, go through it, improve it, and so on, but telling him, no, you cannot open the hood. Okay, if he doesn't open the hood, how will he see what is in it? How will he improve? So open source software floss, for example, allows you to go and see, explore, modify if required, and so on. It allows you to become better programmers. It is free of cost to the industry also. This is extremely important because imagine teaching your students some expensive software to industry. Sometimes the industry cost of software is 10 times as expensive as academic software, sometimes even 100 times, depending on at what terms they agree to give to academics. Sometimes they might even give it to academics free of cost. It doesn't mean that that software is available free of cost to industry, because when your student goes out to industry, they should be able to use the same software. Imagine using a book in your classes, but telling the student, sorry, you cannot take it outside the book, outside the college. Then of what use is that book? Can they access it later? So industry, if the cost becomes very high, then the industry cannot use that software. So it becomes a serious problem. On the other hand, if you teach your students with floss, then they can take that software wherever they go, even to industry, and tell the industry people, don't worry, I will solve your problem using this floss. And then I have several examples. I'm going to talk about them. It is ideal during pandemic because we are using a lot of software now, and licenses available only in colleges, but students are accessing from home. Then how will they access? Who gives the license? It's a serious problem. Then you might have a license manager, then the license manager may get overloaded, and in addition, the electricity may fail in the student's place. Then how will they access? Without license manager, the software may not run. Even if the electricity is not a problem, electricity may go for a couple of hours, whereas if it is floss, the student can download, install, and use it even if electricity is not there, provided the battery is charged. Battery in the computer is charged, that they can always charge, right? Ahead of time. But even if there is no electricity failure, the connection, they need to connect for the license server, and the license server breaks, internet breaks, you have to connect again. And if you're running a program, it will terminate. Then you have to start all over again. So there are serious problems, and we have had extremely good results with some of the open source software that I'm going to talk about, because the students can download and use them locally. We promote FLOSS through FOSSEE, 2 projects, FOSSEE and spoken tutorial. First, I will begin with spoken tutorial. Of course, I'm going to spend a lot more time on spoken tutorial because this is going to be a useful tool for skills training also. That way, it's in that sense, the scope is a lot broader. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that are relevant to women in particular. Okay, women's education, women's health, for example, and to raise the family and things like that. So it is extremely important. So I'm going to talk about that. So spoken tutorial is a 10-minute long audio video tutorial. I call it spoken tutorial, but it has a video component also. I'm going to give you some examples also. Why am I calling it spoken? Because you don't hear me. You only hear me. You only hear my voice. You don't see my face. You don't see my video. So I call it spoken tutorial. We created this for national level training on ICT topics, national level, not IIT level, not let's say district level or state level, but the whole country should be able to benefit by that. And we said that to improve the employment potential, this is the reason why we started the project of spoken tutorial. Okay, then I will take your questions after a little while. Then you will, if you have some questions, you can ask me. Features of spoken tutorial, created for self-learning. This is extremely important. I have more slides on that. We dub these into all our 22 languages. Okay, it is usable offline without internet. Even without internet, you can use it. It's available free of cost. That means you can download it, use it. You don't have to take anybody's permission to use it. You're not cheating anybody. You're not pirating. It is a legal process. And of course, this licensing is called CC BY SA, Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license. I told you that spoken tutorials are created for self-learning. Self-learning, extremely important. Now, how do we do that? How do I guarantee that it is suitable for self-learning? The process is as follows. We got this idea from movie industry. You might have heard people saying that, oh, I made this great movie because I got the script. I got an excellent script, so I decided to make a movie. So in a similar way, for our tutorials also, we say that we need a script. We create the script. But these scripts are created by experts. We have to check whether it is going to be useful to beginners. Okay, experts are creating, but for beginners. So I wanted to find out, can the beginners understand if this tutorial is made? Using this script, I make this tutorial, can the beginner understand? Okay. So before using the script for recording, there are some steps. What is the step? First step, can a beginner understand? I ask this question. And most of the time, the answer is, you guessed it, no. Most of the time, the answer is no. A beginner cannot understand. Why? Because it is created by an expert. That expert doesn't necessarily understand what a beginner knows, doesn't know, etc. So we say, improve the script. We improve the script and it goes through the loop. Improve it, then we ask the question, can a beginner understand? No, it goes back. It goes back in this loop, but fortunately we found that in all our tutorials, we have created more than 1,000 tutorials. In all of them, we found that eventually, if you put in enough effort, I call it 10 times the effort. You have to put in 10 times the effort to pass this, right? But if you do that, then it passes the beginner test and novice says, look, the script is good. I can understand every step. Go and create a tutorial. So we create the tutorial. record a video using the script, and that is called spoken tutorial.
Welcome to the spoken tutorial on embedding mathematics in XFIG. In this tutorial, I shall explain
Scilab spoken tutorial.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm jumping a little faster. I'm going to show some dubbing also. Okay. So what we did was we created this. We created the spoken tutorial. You saw why it is called spoken tutorial. You don't see my face. You see only my voice. Not only that, when this tutorial was first created, we started doing this in 2007 time frame. At that time, there were many silent tutorials in YouTube. So we said that we wanted to distinguish our tutorials. All our tutorials will have a running comment. All our tutorials will have a running commentary. So we will have a voice. Then the other problem is our children are not fluent in English. So can we dub it into all our languages? So we dubbed them into various languages, only the spoken part. So I'm going to talk about it in a little while, but see some videos that I have created.
Welcome to the
this you already saw
on embedding mathematics.
Scilab స్పోకెన్ ట్యుటోరియల్ కి స్వాగతం. ఈ ట్యుటోరియల్లో మీరు Scilab యొక్క ఉపయోగాల గురించి నేర్చుకోబోతున్నారు.
C++ में कंस्ट्रक्टर्स और डिस्ट्रक्टर्स के स्पोकन ट्यूटोरियल में आपका स्वागत है.
स्पोकन ट्युटोरियलच्या क्रिएटिंग बेसिक कंटेंट वरील पाठात आपले स्वागत.
फ्लो शीटिंग அறிமுகம் குறித்த ஸ்போக்கன் ट्यूटोरियलக்கு நல்வரவு.
जावा इत्यस्मिन् अङ्कगणितीय प्रक्रियायाः पाठं प्रति स्वागतम्.
Take a guess, put it on chat.
वयं विविधाः अङ्कगणित प्रक्रियाः अभ्यस्यामः.
What language dubbing is this?
संयोगः, वियोगः,
okay.
गुणकम्.
I'll give the answer. It is Sanskrit dubbing. If I can dub it in Sanskrit, I can dub it into any language. So we dub it into all our 22 languages, and so that our tutorials are available even to linguistic minorities, the same high quality. Why do I say same high quality? Because you saw that loop, right? Novice check, beginner has to certify. That makes it 10 times more difficult. So as a result, we have from national education policy point of view, you see that it is available in all our 22 languages. Okay. So we have more than 1,000 tutorials in English. We have 10,000 dubbed tutorials in our 22 languages. Dubbed audio helps people not fluent in English because people are, they are generally, familiar with alphabet, English alphabet. You ask our children, they will all sing Jack and Jill. They may not know the answer, they may not know the meaning, but they will play the nursery rhyme. They all have an exposure to English. So English typewriter is okay, English keyboard is okay. So, but the English spoken part is a problem. So the dubbed audio helps people not fluent in English, whereas the video in English helps retain employment opportunities. This is the quickest way to train non-English speakers and make them problem solvers. This is one of the objectives of Atmanirbhar, NEP, that we have to empower our children. They should also become problem solvers. It should not happen that only the English speaking people help other people all the time. When are we going to, solve the problem? 90% of our people are not fluent in English. They should be solving their problem. So the only way is to quickly bring them up. And you can do that by dubbing the spoken part alone into Indian languages. So this is what I have said, NEP, from NEP point of view, National Education Policy point of view. By the way, I assumed that my talk was going to be the second one. So I didn't even talk about NEP, National Education Policy. I'm sure you all know about it. NEP is something that we have, what I thought was some of the points that I have made. I didn't create any slide because I thought that you people would already have heard NEP and might have heard about too much of it. In fact, you might have heard lots of lectures, newspapers covering it, and things like that. So I didn't even come prepared to talk about NEP, but I'm sure it is going to be covered in some of the other talks. But some of the things I can think of are our students are going to go through 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. 5 starts with elementary school, and then various, it includes kindergarten, nursery, and so on. They are putting all of that into 5, and then all the way up to 12th. So the total adds to 15, but then it is 12 plus 3 years before that. So it is that is something the government says that it is a better way to group the classes. And then no institution will be a single stream institution, like engineering, for example. They will have to go into liberal arts, maybe medicine, maybe law, maybe management, a lot of other things. IIT, for example, IITs have already started doing to some extent. For example, we do have a humanities department. We have a lot of PhDs coming out of that. We have science departments. We have management departments, and so on. In fact, IIT Kharagpur also has a medical school. So that way, more and more will have to come. One of the things they are talking about is to even have education. Every institution, higher education institution should have an education department, education technology, for example, things like that. All of them should be available. So no single stream. And then vocational training is emphasized. And then language learning is emphasized. And the government says that at least till about 5th grade or so, children should learn in their mother tongue, perhaps even to the 8th grade, for example. So language learning is mother tongue based learning is emphasized, especially for the beginning children. In fact, our spoken tutorials fit in very nicely. I told you about high quality content. I told you why it is high quality content, because passing the script is extremely important. I always tell my people, if you make an ordinary tutorial, 10 people will watch it. Whereas if you create 10 times better, then 10,000 people will watch it. The scalar is enormous. Okay. And the same high quality content is available to linguistic minorities also. For example, Sanskrit. How many people speak in Sanskrit, converse in Sanskrit, do their day-to-day activities in Sanskrit? So I believe there are about 2 lakh people, especially there is a village in Karnataka in which apparently everybody talks to each other in Sanskrit. Okay, so 2 lakh people in India claim that 2 lakh people claim that their mother tongue is Sanskrit. So high quality content for linguistic minorities also. They are linguistic minorities because only 2 lakh people, for example. Of course, it is possible to dub in international languages also. We have dubbing in Spanish, Portuguese, Thai, Khmer, Arabic, Persian, Vietnamese, etc. I have some samples. Maybe I've removed them because of shortage of time. Access to internet is not required. Can one use spoken tutorials? Okay, before I do that, let me point out this is useful not only to India, but to our neighboring countries also. Because people in Sri Lanka, people in Bangladesh, people in Nepal, people in Pakistan, people in countries like this share common languages with us. So whatever language we have created can be used. For example, our Bengali dubbing can be used in West Bengal. Our Tamil dubbing can be used in the northern part of Sri Lanka, for example. And Nepali is one of our 22 languages. So there are common languages. So this is going to be helpful to our neighboring countries also. The next thing, so we have already looked at 2 issues. One is learning. Is it possible that students who don't have access to good schools, who don't have access to good teachers, can they understand? Can they learn by themselves? So give self-learning. So we came up with that chart and all that. We made it 10 times more difficult. It turned out to be 10 times more difficult. It was not our intention. So that was the first thing. Second thing was English fluency. We said we will dub it into all 22 languages. I played several videos for that. The third thing is internet. Internet is a serious problem. In fact, some people ask me, in fact, a student from Jammu called me and said that he had a problem accessing internet. They have only 2G. So I told them 2G is good enough. Download all our tutorials, spoken tutorials, and learn them offline. Learn them offline. There is absolutely no problem, right? So access to internet is not required. We came up with a method for that. We made an offline application. This allows somebody to download an entire series as a zip file and unzip it into all PCs and use it offline. Our access went up by 100 times. Okay. We could conduct a workshop. We invited all the degree college teachers. They're all teachers who teach BA, BSc, BCom students. That's why I call them 3-year degree college teachers. We called about 250 teachers. They're all young. You can see them, right? They all came with their computers, and we gave them spoken tutorials. We gave them offline. So they downloaded, installed in their computers, and then they practiced. So otherwise, if 250 people simultaneously pull videos, our internet will collapse. In fact, internet in any country will collapse, because if 250 people start streaming simultaneously from the same room, the internet pipe may not be big enough. Okay. We could even conduct a workshop in Myanmar. Okay, there was not even electricity. Of course, you could ask, hey, but how did you take this photograph? Well, we had to wait for electricity to come to take this photograph. In fact, this was the only photograph taken in Myanmar. At least this is what I have. And they all used laptops, because desktop means you need electricity. So all of them use, they're all, by the way, college teachers, university teachers. And it turns out that in Myanmar, more than 60% of the faculty members are ladies. Okay. And you can see that most of them are ladies. There are a few men as well, but you can see them. So they're all learning through spoken tutorial. Here is a spoken tutorial. You can actually see the spoken tutorial. And for them, in fact, we of course gave the English dubbing. We wanted them to do the dubbing in Burmese, but we didn't have it in time. But they were comfortable with the English, the kind of simple English. We remember a beginner should understand. When I say beginner should understand, the English automatically becomes simple also. Okay, and also it has to be dubbed into various languages without changing the video. So to do that, once again, I made the English very simple, and that ensured that people in teachers in Myanmar didn't have any difficulty. Otherwise, they have sometimes difficulty also because the previous generation didn't go to colleges and so on because of the dictatorship by the military. In any case, our tutorials were good enough. They could easily follow. Are the design decisions useful? We trained in the last 7 to 8 years, 2 lakh teachers and 60 lakh students. We have a large number of universities with several affiliating colleges officially using spoken tutorials. So if your university is not using, I encourage you to start using them in a big way. I would say about 50% of our users are from non-engineering disciplines. They could be from arts, science, commerce, of course, management, law, and medicine, and so on and so forth. So engineering is only about half. all other people make up the remaining. So your university can definitely use this. It helps different types of audience. These are topics of introduction. Introduction to computers, Firefox, Gmail, typing, even 10-finger typing, what software can be used for that. We promote LibreOffice, which is an excellent alternative to Microsoft Office. In fact, I would encourage the university authorities to shift to LibreOffice. I have tutorials in Telugu. I can share them with you so that every clerical staff member will pick it up. And there are some amazing things that they can learn that they may not know even if they use Microsoft Office. For example, track changes. 2-3 people working together on a document, keeping track of the changes made, accepting the changes, rejecting the changes, and so on, for example. So let me actually give you a demo of this so that you see what I'm talking about. So this is Zoom. So let me open a new tab. We go to Spoken Tutorial web page. And in that, let me take up, I told you LibreOffice Writer, for example. Let me take Writer. Writer is like MS Word. We have it in all languages, but for demonstration purposes, let me take Telugu. Okay. So you can see that using track changes, for example. Okay. So let me play this.
నమస్కారము లిబ్రేఆఫీస్ రైటర్ ట్రాక్ చేంజెస్ వైల్ ఎడిటింగ్ ద డాక్యుమెంట్ గురించి తెలియబర్చే స్పోకెన్ ట్యుటోరియల్ కు స్వాగతం. ఈ ట్యుటోరియల్లో
you can see that actually Telugu subtitle also come. Whatever she speaks is also coming. And you can see that this tutorial is for track changes. Okay. Not sure whether I can show that, but I would encourage you to, in case I cannot show it. Okay. You can see that first is everything is in black and there is a new person who is changing and this is coming in blue, right? So that's how it comes. Now you can see that it is inserted by Sri Ranjani in 2012, whatever date. And what she deletes is cut like this. Remember, this is available as a spoken tutorial, so your clerical staff can also understand, right? Okay. So that is good. You got an idea of, let me come back. It's an amazing alternative. And then in fact, I would encourage your university to switch over to LibreOffice. It's available free of cost. And in case somebody sends you Microsoft document, you can open them easily. You can also save your documents as Microsoft Excel, as Microsoft Word document, and so on, and they can open it. There is absolutely no problem. Okay. So why should you pay for it? To talk to each other. You don't have to do that. Okay. Okay. C, Java, Python, Linux. In fact, we conducted an amazing experiment in Hyderabad on Java. I will share that with you. So these are helpful to students who are interested in getting a job. Okay. By the way, this Python, of course, is now introduced in CBSE also. Linux is, most of our big time projects are based on, Linux. Government's projects, for example, Aadhaar project is based on Linux. Okay. Even the money transfer nowadays, this net transfer, you are able to do it immediately, instantaneously, without spending any money. There is no charge at all. That software is also implemented by the government using Linux. So all these things are extremely important. Python is, of course, very useful for AI, machine learning, analytics, and so on. C and Java are first programming courses in many colleges, engineering, and non-engineering. In fact, first year degree colleges also in many streams, they have these as compulsory courses. So we have spoken tutorials on that, dubbed in all 22 languages. Remember that. For advanced programmers, for simulation users, Scilab is an amazing alternative to MATLAB. I would strongly encourage you to explore this. I have some more slides on that. Graphic artists, Blender is a 3D animation software. Synfig is a 2D animation software. I have more information on this, some more slides on this. Inkscape is an alternative to CorelDRAW. You could have created your banner, for example, using Inkscape. GIMP, you don't need Adobe Photoshop to edit your photographs. You can do this with GIMP, and it is available absolutely free of cost. These are all FLOSS systems. For chemistry, in fact, we will be conducting a workshop on Chem Collective virtual labs. In fact, this workshop is going to come very soon, in maybe about 2 weeks' time, to be conducted by us. Can we do the experiments remotely? Because students don't have access to chemistry labs. How do we do this? PhET simulation for chemistry, Avogadro, for example, periodic table, GChemPaint, biology, physics, mathematics. GeoGebra is a very popular software, for example, for algebra geometry, and then front accounting, even accounting. So you can see that NEP, it is multifaceted. You cover various streams. Okay, we have 75 different courses and growing. So I'm going to talk about the efficacy of this. Are there any questions now? Let me see if there are any questions. I think, are we here? No. Zoom is here. Okay, let me stop sharing for a minute so that I can see if there are any questions. I'll answer them. Okay. Okay, so there are no questions, so I will continue. So which means, let me share my screen again. So I'm going to tell you about the efficacy of this learning. Okay. So what did we do? We went to, I had a PhD student. He did a PhD thesis on this, studying the efficacy of spoken tutorial. So he conducted this study, controlled study, in a Hyderabad college. There were about 400 and between about 420 students, maybe 450 students, and they were first year engineering students. They had Java compulsory. Okay, and so for 1 week, he told them, instead of doing it in the lecture mode, will anybody want to learn it through Java spoken tutorials? That is, don't go to class, only 1 week. Don't go to class, learn the same topic through spoken tutorial based workshop. 1 week lectures, 1 week worth of lectures. That means instead of 3 lectures, 3 hours, in the 3 hours, you learn the same topic through spoken tutorials. And some students chose the traditional class, some students chose the self-workshop, and you can also see men and women. Of course, we do have more men in engineering. Nevertheless, there were quite a few women in this college, 250 and 150. Actually, it was more. What we did was we conducted the workshop, and it was assigned as per the wish of students. And then we conducted a test for both the teams. What are the 2 teams? One is the traditional class, the other is self-workshop. Those who went through workshop, the other one went to the class. Okay, you have to choose one of the two. Don't do both. Okay, and it was left to them based on the what the students chose. Overall performance in post says about equal. In fact, our self-workshop based students did slightly better. Okay. More importantly, this last line is extremely important. The self-confidence was very high because the people who underwent spoken tutorial based training said, nobody taught me. I didn't go to a class. No teacher taught me. I learned it myself. I am capable of learning. I am capable of learning. In fact, this confidence was very high amongst women because it turns out that in a mixed class, for example, women generally don't ask questions. They are most of the time shy. Okay, at least I see them that way in IIT. So they have doubts, but they are worried that what if somebody says that it's a stupid doubt or something, so they don't ask questions. Here, it is guaranteed for self-learning, so they don't have to worry about it. As a matter of fact, we have another thing called forum. In fact, I will show the forum also in case somebody has a question. It is what is known as a timed discussion forum, in which a person can say that I have a question in LibreOffice Writer, that is a topic. In track changes, that is a tutorial. Between 3 minutes and 4 minutes, I have a question. And in that, between 20 seconds and 30 seconds. So that means, suppose you have a question at 3 minutes, 25 seconds, you will say between 3 and 4 and between 20 and 30. Then you choose the time and ask a question. So that means you don't have to stand in front of everybody, ask a question. You just post it on the forum, somebody will answer. So women found this method to be very good. In fact, their confidence, the women who underwent self-workshop had higher confidence than men who underwent traditional workshop. Okay, which is very good because normally in programming, people say based on the past studies, people say that for some reason women are not confident for whatever reason. But here, that's of course measured information. I don't have any reason to believe one way or other. But in our case, we found that the self-confidence was amongst women are higher if they go through the self-workshop, higher than even men. We even wrote this journal article. That student I told you is Kiran Iranki. We have a testimonial from the minister. Let me play that for you. This minister was giving a talk in Vancouver. Okay, you can see that he is the chief guest. This was in Vancouver, in Canada. He gave this talk in front of about 500 Sanskrit experts across the world.
As I mentioned, spoken tutorials, they are prepared by Bombay IIT. But IIT Bombay has prepared those spoken tutorials. It is giving lessons in all languages. And one language is Sanskrit. And therefore, when I heard the tutorial of IT, of all lessons, they were in Sanskrit, and it was very effective.
Okay. Okay, so you heard the minister's talk, and they were all Sanskrit experts. They had assembled 550 people, 500 people, about 550 people came from all over the world in Vancouver, Canada. She gave this talk and he said that, look, we have it in Sanskrit. Okay. So then the ministry asked us, look, the ministry has a lot of other expenses. By the way, this project is funded by the ministry. I have some slides on that. So the ministry, the government, central government asked, can you start collecting some money Can the people users pay a little bit? Not a whole lot. Can they pay a little bit so that you can actually make the government can use the money for some other targets. For example, they can go to schools, they can give the money to other projects and things like that. So because of that, we came up with this paid model for online test and certification. This was introduced in August 2018. Until that time, everything was free. From August 2018, we said that from now on, if you want to take a test, our test for certificates, you have to pay a small amount. What is the amount? I'll tell you shortly. Okay, what is a paid versus free model? This slide compares it. Okay, so I'm comparing along 4 topics, 4 heads. This is before August 2018. So this is after August 2018. You can see that license is the same, no registration login. By the way, if you recall, remember I showed you this spoken tutorial. Let me go back. You can see this, right? Now, if you see here, it says login, right? Can you see this? It says login because I have not logged in. I have not logged in. You just do a search on spoken tutorial, you will come to this site. So anybody, even without logging in, can access our tutorials. No login is required. We continue to create tutorials on FLOSS. We are not creating on commercial software. So it's very accessible to everybody. Supposing I say that, look, my tutorials are free, but in order that it is useful, you have to buy this software for 10,000 rupees. Right? So that's not fair, right? I'm using government money. If I create tutorials to promote commercial software, is it fair? It is not fair to the taxpayers. So we say that it is only for open source software. That also has not changed. Only the online test became paid. Annual subscription is 25,000 rupees. It is an institutional license. That means any number of students from a college can appear in the online test, and if they pass, they will get a certificate. The only requirement is to pass an online test. They have to pass. Okay. There is invigilation. The test is administered in colleges, and not only that, we say the certificate has the name of the invigilator. Okay, so that the invigilator takes the responsibility, because if something goes wrong, they are responsible, right? We are responsible, IIT Bombay, Spoken Tutorial Project, but the invigilators also have to take responsibility. Okay, so we had some targets, government set some targets, we achieved all those targets. Not only that, it also resulted in higher efficacy. Training ending in tests used to be 15% when it was free. Supposing I trained 100 people, only 15 people took the online test. But once the paid scheme was introduced, this number increased to 50%. Of course, I want to reach it to go at least 75%, if not 100%. And then we have job fairs for high performers. In fact, we said, why don't we invite all the people who do well in the online test and see if we can conduct a job fair. We conducted job fairs. I have some slides on that. I also have a testimonial. I'll play that. Okay, here is the number of students trained. You can see that male-female ratio is about the same, about 250, 150, that number I showed, especially in engineering, because that's where we go out mostly. But that number is, number of women attending our workshops is increasing, because we are reaching more and more into art, science, commerce colleges where there are many more ladies. So we expect this number to become equal eventually. Okay, now more about job fairs. We are collecting high performers in the spoken tutorial online tests. We conduct job fairs for them. Example, we organized one with NASCOM. 10 companies participated. 40 students attended the workshop. 30 of them got 2 jobs each. In fact, 59 jobs total.
Hi, my name is Shraddha Sue and I'm the Senior Manager Talent Acquisition for Rave Technologies, as you see. So firstly, it gives me an immense pleasure to be a part of this campus today. And we have been conducting interviews since morning. And we have got our select today. So I would like to introduce him. His name is Mayur Wagmode. Okay, and we have selected him for our company. Yeah.
I'm Mayur Wagmode from Pune Vidyarthi Graj College of Engineering. I'm currently in the final year of computer engineering. There are not companies coming to our college, but I thank to Spoken Tutorial and NASCOM for arranging such a beautiful mega job fair.
Okay. It helps students because tier 3, tier 4 colleges have no campus placements. Their students, especially good students, suffer because although they are capable, if a company had come, they would have got a job. But no company is coming because it is not such a well-known college, for example. Small companies also have difficulty in recruiting because when they go to a college, there is no guarantee that they will get a good student. And if they go to a good college, small companies get their turn only on the 3rd day or 4th day. By that time, all the good students are already picked up by other companies like TCS, Infosys, maybe in some cases, even Google, Microsoft, and so on, right? In both high and low ranked colleges. That's what I mentioned. So this job fair is extremely important. We are now going overseas also. Okay, here is somebody from Ghana who talked about how he is using spoken tutorial. Okay, I'm going to check now. I'm going to go to the next topic. IT skills training is the tip of the iceberg. Okay, it can be extended to other skills training also, right? I'm going to talk about it shortly, but if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer them now. Let me see if there are any questions. Okay, there are a lot of questions. Let me just so I'm going to answer some of the questions. For some questions, I may not know the answers and only time will tell. So those I will not answer, but something that I can answer immediately, I will answer. Which spoken tutorial is available for English language? For English language, what we are saying is we are talking about skills. Remember jobs. Okay, IT skill is one of them. I'm going to talk about other skills. But for languages, only thing I can think of, I mean, we are still trying, we have not succeeded in that. We believe that if a person listens to a topic in their mother tongue and listen to the same topic in English, their English will also improve. This is what we are saying right now. Okay. Is there any software to translate language or video from one to another? We are doing it manually because tutorials are language is a sensitive topic for us, right? Language is a sensitive topic, and if you make a mistake, there will be questions, and we have to be very careful. And our software is not developed well enough to do, because there is nothing like Indian accent. There is a Tamil accent, there is a Telugu accent, there is a Marathi accent. Unlike an American accent or a British accent, BBC accent, for example, we don't have that. So we don't use any language software for that. Okay. Not being implemented in degree colleges of AP, even though we are also students enrolled in spoken tutorials. By the way, Andhra Pradesh government, in fact, the government brought in 100 colleges into our fold. So If you want, you can get in touch with me and visit our spoken tutorial webpage, where to contact. All the information is there. Please send a mail. We will get back to you. I will also give you. I will also tell you about. If you see our webpage, we have something called software training. In that, context for training is there. So you can see for every state, who is the contact person. For, you can see that Andhra Pradesh, Sikkim, we have Sanchita Samant, how she can be contacted. Similarly, we have Andhra Pradesh schools, we have somebody else. We have Maharashtra schools, Telangana. So how do you locate it? So it's very easy. Come to spoken tutorial. Just do a web search. You come to this web page, and in this software training, in that contacts for training. If you do that, you will come to this. Right? All the names are there. You have to scroll down a little bit, perhaps, and then you will get it. Okay. Any other question? So AP government brought in 100 colleges. Many are for degree colleges. Okay. So, and of course, they made it available only for government colleges, but any private college can also join. You just have to pay 25,000 rupees per year for all your students. That means, in fact, there was a Hyderabad college that said they took 1,000 certificates in a year. So if 1,000 certificates are given for 25,000 rupees, it is only 25 rupees per certificate. So it's very little, right? And job fair can be organized on top of it, for example, and so on. Is it useful to engineering students? Of course it is useful. We are an engineering institution. Will we not make it useful for engineering? These are not available for high school students. These are available for high school students. I told you maths, physics, chemistry. I showed you the slides, right? I'm sure that I can share my slides also with you all. So your organizers can share that with you. So you can actually go through that. And our spoken tutorials are here. Right. So let me just go back. Let me come here. And then all courses. So for example, I told you about GeoGebra, right? GeoGebra is there. Of course, it is not available in all languages, but we can get them dubbed easily. It's not a problem. So you can see that introduction to GeoGebra, basics of triangle, congruency of triangle, properties of quadrilaterals, types of symmetry. Don't you think this is useful to schools? Let me show you one more school thing. I told you about Avogadro. This for, so I'm not sure whether this is available in Telugu. Maybe not available, but if it is there, I'll show you. Otherwise, I'll show you Hindi. It is not. So we have not dubbed in, we have only, out of 1,100, we have dubbed only 400 tutorials into Telugu. Actually, our dubbing has stopped because we don't get funding anymore to do the dubbing. Okay. If Andhra or Telangana governments pay for this, we can get it dubbed, all the remaining tutorials also in Telugu. One of you maybe can talk to your government officials, and this will be extremely useful to your government school children. For example, build molecules, edit molecules, create surfaces, hydrogen bonding, general features, and so on. In fact, let me show you one more. It's called JMOL. So this is also useful to, this is definitely available in, I'm pretty sure in Telugu. Let me see. See? So introduction to JMOL, create and edit molecular models, modify, display and view. That means you can actually show the students how the benzene ring looks like, and how do you rotate it, what is meant by single bond, double bond, all that you can show. Yeah. There you are. You can visit spoken-tutorial.in. You can visit that, you can find it. All right. So let me, if there are no questions, let me go back to my presentation. Now I'm going to talk about how we are extending to other skills. By the way, I'm only talking about the work done by Spoken Tutorial project. There are other projects that talk about other things. For example, somebody talked about English, and we do have another project called IIT Bombay X, and they have a project called College to Corporate, for example. It's available for students. So if you just do a web search on IIT Bombay X, you can easily locate it. So here I have a focus, otherwise the time is not enough to talk about all the things that our outreach programs do. Here the focus is mainly on spoken tutorials. So now I'm going to extend it to other skills topic. I'm going to talk about application to non-ICT areas, first 1,000 days of a baby.
Welcome to the spoken tutorial on cross-cradle hold for breastfeeding. In this tutorial, we will learn about choosing the correct breastfeeding hold for a mother and her baby.
Okay. So this is Dr. Rupal Dalal. She heads our health and nutrition topic, especially exclusive breastfeeding. What this doctor says is that if only our babies are given only mother's milk for the first 6 months, their brains will grow very well. In fact, it is a well understood, well-known fact. And not only that, their ability to fight diseases is also very good. One problem is sometimes there is a difficulty in nursing. So this doctor has come up with a method that says how to guarantee mother's milk. In fact, let me show you the web page for that. So in fact, there was this, go to scilab.in. Scilab.in, oh, not sorry, spokentutorial.in. spoken-tutorial.in. Okay, the extension is important, IN, right, not org. If you go there, we see that Dr. Kalam saying that why open source software we should use, about our project. So this is the spoken tutorial for colleges. This is the page I showed you. For schools, somebody asked, how come there is nothing for schools? Here it is. And then health and nutrition. So let's go there. Okay, 41 results found. Okay, cross-cradle hold, breastfeeding latching, breastfeeding during COVID-19, football hold for breastfeeding, laid back hold for breastfeeding, side lying hold for breastfeeding, and so on. Cradle hold for breastfeeding. Apparently, this is the most popular method. And already there are 20. You can see there are totally. We have magnesium-rich vegetarian recipes, protein-rich recipes, and then we have other tutorials also. Okay, we have non-vegetarian recipes for pregnant women, things like that. So we have a lot of topics available. Okay, let me see if there are any other questions. I think, yeah. So let me go to the slides. What is the impact of these tutorials? Of course, Dr. Rupal Dalal says that men also should learn, and they should, this tutorial actually talks about how to hold the baby, how to hold it, how not to hold. And I told you about this, why we should use, should give mother's milk, because she guarantees mother's milk. Every mother who has given birth to a baby has enough milk. That's her claim. In fact, she gives guarantee and she conducts so many workshops. Here is a workshop for Anganwadi workers, for example. They're all Anganwadi workers. They're all learning. Of course, these are all dubbed in Marathi. This has happened in Maharashtra. You can see this shed here. This is breastfeeding is extremely important because otherwise they have to give powder milk. To give powder milk for a baby for 6 months, it costs about 5,000 rupees. If the mother had that money, poor mothers, for example, they would have eaten and they would have fed the baby. Okay, but it is they don't have the money, and both of them would have become healthy if they had that 5,000 rupees. And last but not the least, you need clean drinking water to create this milk, powder milk. And we don't have access to that, and that creates a lot of other problems. So Dr. Rupal Dalal heads our team, and then we have a health and nutrition team. So I'm going to show you some more slides on this. We have a case study. Here is a baby from Srirampur. At 4 weeks, the baby was 1.4 kg. Mother was refused admission in the hospital. Mother was refused admission in a hospital because what if the baby were to die? God forbid. Then, then the relatives will get very upset with the hospital and so on. So our hospitals are very scared of when, babies like that come. But our healthcare workers didn't lose hope. This mother was taught breastfeeding. By these healthcare workers were only 12 pass. At 6 weeks, home visit, baby started on antibiotics and local treatment. Breastfeeding and top feed continued. At 7 weeks, home visit, and the wound started healing. 9 weeks, 1.8 kg, top feed start, exclusive breastfeeding. At 3 months, at 6 months, 5.5 kg. So, and of course, the mother was guided to do other things, not just after 6 months, you have to start with complementary feeding. This is Dharampur. This was also 1 kg baby. And once again, the local hospital refused. Same baby after 6 months. Some more babies here. Okay. You can see that this child was stunted at 3 months. Below this line, green line is the normal world average, not just India. So this is the duration. This says 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. These are all different months, and this is the length. What is the length of the baby? Okay, the length was stunted at 3 months. He is 5 years now. Touches the 85th percentile on WHO growth chart. In fact, above the average. Once again, this baby was, trained. His mother was trained through exclusive breastfeeding technique. So only 15% of the children the world over are as tall as him. These are babies from Melghat. Melghat is a tribal region, and it's a serious problem. In fact, a high incidence of infant malnutrition. And so if you search, you will see a lot of articles.
जो वीडियो दिया है आपने वो सभी वीडियो मैंने देखा है, वो वीडियो करते ये वीडियो सबसे अलग है और ब्रेस्ट फीडिंग देने में बहुत सहायता करता है। मैंने पहले भी वीडियो देखा है, पर वो वीडियो में हम जे पद्धति के ले रहे थे बच्चे को, वैसे वो बच्चे फीडिंग नहीं ले पा रहे थे और अटैचमेंट नहीं हो रहा है। और आप क्रॉस क्रेडल आप सिखा रहे हो जे वीडियो में, वहाँ हम बच्चे को रखते हो तो बच्चे और माता का संपर्क बहुत ज्यादा रहता है और फीड अच्छे से ले रहा है और वो जो मुंह खुलता है वो बहुत ज्यादा खुलता है और फीड बहुत अच्छे से ले रहा है। और ये सब वीडियो है हम दर्दी को समझाते हैं और दिखाते हैं, गुजराती सभी गुजराती में दिया है, तो सरल भाषा में पेशेंट और पेशेंट के सगे वाले भी सरल भाषा में समझ जाते हैं और हमको भी बहुत
Okay. So, spoken tutorials on breastfeeding, complementary feeding, pregnant women, dubbed in 10+ languages. It's available. I already gave you the link. Dr. Rupal Dalal and her team even published a paper, and it is available here. We are currently working on other skills: vaccination, menstrual hygiene, zero budget farming, kitchen garden, road construction, low cost housing, etc. for people at the bottom of the pyramid. So we have not lost this. This is for people at the bottom of the pyramid. It should be useful to them also. So NEP vocational training, it fits in nicely. So let me see if there are any questions now. So let me. Oh, I didn't share the screen. Was I sharing the screen or not sharing the screen? Somebody should have told me, right? If I was not sharing the screen. Yeah, somebody should have told me. Okay, let me just quickly show you the slides so that you understand. Okay. Okay. So I'll quickly go through this. This is the video I
Welcome to the spoken tutorial on cross-cradle hold for breastfeeding.
Okay. This is the Rupal Dalal's talk, training. And here is a case study. So this was the 4 weeks, the baby was 1.4 kg. And then it started improving thanks to exclusive breastfeeding. At 9 weeks, it is 1.8 kg. 3 months, 2.02 kg. And then 6 months, 5.5 kg. Here is a baby from Dharampur. Once again, this is only 1 kg after 6 months. So we have several cases. As I told you, this child was stunted at 3 months. Below this line, this is first year, second year, third year, and this is the length. Okay, you can see every month you locate the length and then note it down. And you can see that it went above this mean. 5 years now, touches the 85th percentile on WHO growth chart, WHO. Only 15% of the children the world over are as tall as him. Male guard babies. This is a male guard to the tribal region near Mumbai.
जो वीडियो दिया है आपने,
So this is the video I
सभी
played.
वीडियो मैंने देखा है, वो वीडियो करते ये वीडियो.
All right. Currently we are working on other skills: vaccination, menstrual hygiene, zero budget farming, all these things for people at the bottom of the pyramid. So this is NEP vocational training. So if there are, let me stop the screen and see if there are any questions. Yeah, if people say through chat window, I will not be able to see. I don't see the chat as you put it. For some reason, they are not displayed. Unless somebody tells me, unmutes their mic and they should tell, we are not able to see the slide, then I will correct it. Okay. Okay, sorry about it. Are there any questions now? If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. This is going to be extremely important for all your students, this skill. Okay. In fact, if your university would want to join hands with us in promoting this, whether IT training or health and nutrition training, your university will have NSS, for example. Your NSS candidates may be very good because they can go and teach in all these local areas. They can liaise with Asha and Anganwadi workers. And so it will help them. You might even have social sciences. You might even have other relevant programs in which it can be used. Okay, how are we doing with respect to time? How much time do I have? Depending on that, I will do the remaining talk. Can somebody?
So if you want extend, please extend, sir.
Okay. So I can talk for another half an hour? Okay. Okay, now I'm going to talk about constructing pyramids of excellence. Okay, so I told you about, hold on, let me see, I should first share the screen. Let me share the screen. So I told you about spoken tutorial. I told you how we used it for IT training, how we are training a lot of people, how we are even finding jobs for them, how it is improving their self-confidence. And because they say that, look, I learned it myself. Nobody taught me. I am capable of doing. I am capable of doing. In fact, this is one reason why in Tamil Nadu, the, DMK became very popular and very strong, mainly because their political leaders said, you can do it. In fact, I remember there, you might see in Tamil Nadu, if you go, the first chief minister, Anna, his statue standing like this. Okay, what does he say? He has a book in his hand and he stands like this and he says, Unnal Mudiyum Tambi. You can do it, younger brother. So that is the most important thing, that you can give them self-confidence, that they are capable of doing. The moment they know that they are capable, they can go to any heights. They can climb Himalayas, for example, right? So this gives confidence to them. Our methods should be such that it gives confidence to people. It brings up people. And in fact, I'm going to talk about this, how we are constructing pyramids of excellence, not just, bringing them up from lowest level to little bit above. No, I'm actually talking about taking them to very high level. Okay, let's take this, constructing pyramids of excellence. Of course, I also told you that spoken tutorials can be used for a lot of other things, like health and nutrition, for example. I have some more tutorials on some other skills training and so on. In fact, we are talking about skilling 500 million people, right? 50 crore people have to be skilled, for example. No, we can train them through spoken. Of course, we have to create those tutorials. Take spoken tutorials, train lots of people through spoken tutorial. They are created for self-learning, dubbed in local languages. These tutorials are available free of cost. Anybody can access them and then can be used offline. Very useful for national level training. Okay. All right. Train everybody through spoken tutorials. Now I'm going to construct other layers through this project called FOSSEE. Remember I told you free and open source software for education. So I'm going to talk about that. FOSSEE, and for every one of the topics, we have spoken tutorials. Now somebody asked, is it useful for engineering? Yeah, engineers use MATLAB. We promote Scilab. Scilab is an alternative to MATLAB. Xcos is an alternative to Simulink. So use this, don't buy MATLAB. We promote scientific computing. Okay, that means the students say, look, I know I studied Scilab through spoken tutorials. What can I do? So I tell them, okay, now we can do something more. So I'm going to talk about it for different software, because we do IT training through spoken tutorials. First level training is done. Then the students, bright students, come and say, I studied it. I'm good at it. Maybe I even passed a test. What else can I do? So we provide avenues for their growth. And that's how we are constructing other layers of the pyramid. Scilab in the place of MATLAB, Xcos in the place of Simulink. By the way, if there are people in the audience who don't know what these software are, don't worry about it. Think of it as some software. We can do this for any software, any open source software, we can do this. Okay. Scores on Cloud, this is something created by students. We promote Python. As I told you, we have spoken tutorials on Python. And we promote OpenFOAM in the place of Fluent. What is Fluent? This is software. This is some streamlines created using OpenFOAM. Cut section view. Streamlines are over rear wing, for example. Now, it turns out, this is a very interesting story. I should share this with you. This gives an idea of what this software does. Dr. Abdul Kalam, before he became the president, he was testing the Agni missile. Okay? And it had to be tested before it is launched, before it is fired. It has to be tested in a wind tunnel. That kind of testing facility was not available in India. So he went to only place that was allowing that was Berlin. All other developed countries denied it. So he went to Berlin on one occasion because Berlin said, come over. Unfortunately, the previous night, they told him, because they were told not to permit, not to do the test. Okay. So that's why I've written denied wind tunnel testing of a missile. But he found that computational fluid dynamics could also do it. Unfortunately, supercomputers were required. They were also not required because you have to do a lot of computation. That is, instead of doing it on a wind tunnel by actual experiment, do this through software, using the software that I mentioned earlier. Saw the pictures? Those are all created in the software. Unfortunately, it required supercomputers, but they were also denied. Professor Deshpande of IISc improved the algorithm to make it work 10 times faster. Okay. In fact, if you do a search on this, you will easily locate it. As a result, they found that the computers that we already had were sufficient, and he could do all the tests, he could tweak, he could improve the missile, and it was launched successfully. Dr. Kalam came to be known as the missile man, right? Women in ISRO, right? Technology is used all the time. Here it is. I put a link. I'm sure that you have all these different women. They are a role model. And once you see this, you will see that everybody should say, I can become as good. I can become a part of MOM, Mars Orbital Mission, for example, right? We promote R in the place of statistics, in the place of SPSS. We promote electronic circuit design, open source software. eSIM is something we developed. This is the software, this is the circuit developed in this software. And chemical process flow sheeting. We promote DWSIM and Open Modelica. I myself, I'm a chemical engineer, so I do this. Okay, even power system simulation. This is actually very nice. This actually tells you that we have things for artists as well. Graphics and animation. We promote in a huge way. In the place of Adobe Photoshop, GIMP, Inkscape, in the place of CorelDRAW and Adobe Illustrator. In the place of PageMaker, we promote Scribus. In the place of Maya 3D Max, we promote Blender. In the place of Adobe Flash, we promote Synfig Studio. In fact, for Synfig Studio, we are doing a hackathon. Okay, I will talk about it shortly. Synfig Studio is a 2D animation software. Blender is a 3D animation software. Some scenes in Spider-Man 2 were created using Blender 3D animation software. Let me give a sample of what you can do with that. So for that, let me go to YouTube. So let me search for Blender. Let me play this. This was created using Blender. So open source software. Okay, you get an idea of what it is, right? So let me get back to my slides. Oops. We are, of course, we are promoting it in a big way. Right now, we are promoting Synfig Studio. We actually have a hackathon coming up on this. I'll talk about it shortly. We promote QGIS in the place of ArcGIS, this geographic information system. In fact, we are going to do another hackathon using this jointly with ISRO. We have Linux in the place of Windows. We promote hardware as well. We promote chemistry software. Okay, we are conducting several workshops, DWSIM, JMOL, OpenFOAM. And the students who are trained in this way, we have spoken tutorials, we promote it, and we ask them, why don't you create textbook companion? It's a code to 75,000 solved example problems. Okay, this is an amazing, amazing facility. In fact, if you see this, nobody will say, I want to use MATLAB. You know, it's an amazing thing. If there are some questions, I'll be able to show this. I can conduct a demo, for example. I can do a demo, a 2-minute demo. Then DWSIM, chemical flow sheets, electronic circuits, all these were created by students across the country. Good students from every college, they came forward and said, I will do this for you. Okay, using DWSIM, I'll create a chemical engineering flow sheet and offer it to you. It's available free of cost to everyone. So through students across the country, we create the second layer of the pyramid. Flow sheets, circuits, case studies, etc. Let me see if there are any questions now. All right. So I'm asked to complete in 5 minutes. So we do all this. Animation hackathon using Synfig. Let me show this because this is available to all of you. It's a Scilab Studio 2D animation hackathon. It's going to start on 2nd November and you can register for it. It's a free entry. We are doing it with Whistling Woods. Okay. All right. So we do all this. So the students at the top of the pyramid can be placed anywhere. Let me see if I am. Let me just see. All right. So let me quickly conclude. So I told you how to build different pyramids all through competition. Everybody is allowed, and based on the performance, they are selected and taken to the next layer. So by doing this, the whole pyramid gets shifted. Let me just yeah. So I told you that students at the top of the pyramid can be placed anywhere. Okay. So you have train through spoken tutorials, Scilab textbook companions, cloud solutions, research, building simulators, and so on. Everywhere you build this pyramid, and students at the top of the pyramid can be placed anywhere. Seeing this, those at the lower levels will aim higher and achieve, and the whole pyramid will get lifted. So we need thousands of such pyramids for our country. To conclude, spoken tutorial is a great concept, can be used to promote skills created for self-learning, ideal for national level training, towards pyramids of excellence, our contribution to national education policy, Atmanirbhar, and women empowerment. And we are supported by the National Mission on Education through ICT and Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching, Ministry of Education, Government of India. Thank you. I'm going to stop here.
Thank you, sir, for your delightful, insightful, and elaborative deliberation of the training women through spoken tutorials and clarifying all the doubts raised by the participants. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Dr. Madhavi to propose vote of to Professor Kannan, sir. Over to Madhavi.
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam. Good morning, one and all. On behalf of Department of Education, Sri Padmavati Mahila Vishwavidyalayam, Tirupati, I am glad to propose vote of thanks to Professor Kannan M. Mudgalya, Department of Chemical Engineering, IIT Bombay, Mumbai. Sir, thank you for this excellent and elaborated presentation on training women through spoken tutorials for education, employment, and empowerment. Thank you, sir, for giving a detailed explanation and giving your views and awareness on women employment and empowerment. Thank you. Thank you, sir. The entire presentation was very informative, thought-provoking, and useful to all the participants. Thank you, sir, for giving your valuable time, and we are very grateful for your presence as a resource person for our webinar. Thank you, sir, once again. I would like to thank Dr. G. Sunita Bai, madam, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, madam. Now I request Dr. Anurada to take over for the next session, introducing the resource person, Professor Hasin Taj. Thank you, one and all.
One and all. A brief introduction to Professor Hasin Taj, madam. She is a professor and Dean, Faculty of Education, Bangalore University, Bangalore. Madam has total 36 years of teaching and experience at postgraduate level. Madam was the first rank holder at university, gold medalist in her MEd course. Madam has received many awards in her career. She is the recipient of State Award in 1984, National Award in 1996, Professional Involvement Award in 1998, Best Teacher Award in 1998, Women Empowerment Award in 2001, Education Development and Peace Award in 2001, National Level Special Award in 2001, Prabha Bhargav Samman Award in 2009, Baba Saheb Dr. Ambedkar National Fellowship Award in 2009, and Best Senior Educationalist Award in 2015 for her excellence in research. Madam has been chosen a member of Professional Women's Advisory Board for her distinguished standing by ABI USA. Madam has done quite a few book reviews and has published in 4 books in thematic articles in journals of national and international standards. Madam has guided several MEd and MPhil. Besides guiding PhDs, she has developed and standardized 50 research tools and has published in 70 out of them. Madam has completed 6 major research projects funded by national agencies like UGC, ICSSR, MHRD, and state government, etc. Madam has attended several national and international level seminars, conferences as a resource person and presented more than 300 papers apart from invented lectures, lead papers, and keynote addresses. Madam has been a consultant to several national holding honorary positions in NGOs and office bearer of 27 academic professional organizations. Madam is also on the editorial boards of several journals. Madam has chaired several sessions in national and international level seminars and conferences. Madam has trained HRD facilitator, Bangalore University, Bangalore. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Now I request Hasin Taj Madam to take over the session. Hasin Taz Madam to take over the session. Madam, please.
Madam, can you please unmute, ma'am?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anuradha. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, very, very excellent and very pleasant good morning to one and all. I have a great appreciation for Padmavati Mahila University for having taken up a national webinar on the women education and the perspectives. So the administrative authorities of Padmavati Mahila University, the professor and head, esteemed professor and head, Professor Amrutavalli, and also the organizing secretary of this program, and very dynamic convener, Dr. Sunita Bai, and all her team members, and all the learned participant members. It's really very nice that they have taken up a webinar on this. And I thought that let me speak like how that woman is reflected in NEP 2020, though that woman is not been much given a lot of emphasis or maybe schemes or programs in NEP 2020, but still I just thought that let me share on this platform maybe a critical appraisal like what should have been little more towards women education in NEP 2020 and what is being spoken on women education in 2020. Okay, let me just share my screen. Would you please allow sharing of the screen? Can you see the screen here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So my topic for today's presentation is Women Education in NEP 2020, a critical appraisal. Why I chose to use the word a critical appraisal, not that I am critical about the NEP 2020, definitely NEP National Policy of Education 2020 is definitely a very, very aspirational as well as a very, very welcoming document that I can say, and definitely that it has a lot of positive things to take forward for the 21st century. But when it comes to the woman, I found very little space given to the women education. So I just had my own apprehensions with regard to the women education in National Policy of Education 2020. So I just wanted to take it from that perspective. That is the reason that my title is like Women Education in NEP 2020, a critical appraisal. So just to take forward, I can only say that definitely it is a lot more that we can say about women education. When it comes to national education policy, definitely the present policy of 2020 national education policy, this particular document is being based on or maybe taken from or whatever that we can say that present policy was a built up or a cumulative built up on various aspects taken from 1968, 1986, as well as the modified policy of 1992. And of course, like since 1968 till today, we can see like various changes have taken place. That is the in the field of education as well as in all walks of life in the society. Whenever we say so many changes in all walks of life, and the society undergoes a lot of changes and transition, and definitely that calls for the bringing about the changes in our education system. And that once again calls for the revision of the education policies that we are having. And that has happened after a very, very long time, for more than 3 decades. And now that present that the government of India has brought out this policy of 2020 to meet these changing demands of the population. So with regard to the changing demands of the population, we want to focus on quality education with inclusion. So now we are talking about, it is not just merely the quantitative education or quantity education. We are not only just stuck with maybe the enrollment or just the access. So like no doubt that we want to achieve 100% literacy access as well as the enrollment, but still the focus, the shift is not just merely on only the enrollment, but also on the quality education, and that enrollment and quality education for each and every person. That is the reason that we are using the word inclusion, like each and every sect of the society need to be included or need to be given a quality education. And apart from that, we want to focus in our NEP 2020 on the innovation and research. So we want to have, whether it is pedagogy, whether it is the content, whether it is the knowledge, whether it is research, or maybe the type of the teaching learning, or maybe the type of the new 21st century skills that we want to develop, everything that we want to have an innovation, and we also have a research in all this. And apart from that, the present policy, it proposes the revision and revamping of all aspects of educational structure, including its regulation and governance, to create a new system that is aligned with the aspirational goals of 21st century. And definitely we all know that how this 2020 NEP has spoken about the regulatory bodies, like we are going to have a common council for education, where it will have a lot of monitoring bodies, like special regulatory bodies, and then we are going to have a open public disclosures. So there is a lot of regulations are also, apart from the governance, has been spoken about in this present policy. At the same time, that we want to be consistent with the India's traditions as well as the value system. So definitely, like almost all the policies, we speak about the value system of the country, the heritage and traditions of the country. And no doubt, even the present policy also wants to be consistent, remain consistent when it comes to the traditions as well as the value system. Though we move towards modernization, maybe in pedagogy, maybe the adopting of technology, or maybe the other innovations, but at the same time, we do not want to compensate on traditions as well as value systems of our country. And now we want to make India a knowledge superpower by equipping the students with necessary skills and knowledge, and to eliminate the shortage of power in science, technology, academics, and industry. So the focus is on developing the skills and the knowledge. It is not merely or the transmission of the content or transmission of that knowledge which is obsolete. We want such type of knowledge, and we want to equip the students with such type of necessary competencies and skills which can eliminate the shortage of manpower, especially in very, very specialized sectors like in science and technology, academics, and industry. And of course, nowadays we are talking about a lot of unemployment. Still, there are also educated unemployment also we see around, but many a times the employers say that they are not employable because the products of higher education are not possessing the necessary required skills and the knowledge which is required by the industry, or maybe whatever the different sectors. So that is the reason the focus is on developing such type of manpower with skill and knowledge who can just eliminate the shortage of this type of manpower in the very, very required sectors of the country. And as we know that the draft policy started way back in 2015, when it started, and the report was released in 2019. And in this 2019 draft report, and it was constituted under the very, very noted Padma Vibhushan, great scientist, very eminent scientist, Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan. And this draft NEP 2019 was a collaborative effort reaching stakeholders to the black level to understand the changes required in the educational structure. Why I'm just talking about the draft NEP 2019, because the final NEP 2020 was released during the pandemic and without having much time for any discussion, either maybe at various levels. But the draft NEP 2019 had a quite a time to have the discussions at various levels, including right from the black level and including even the stakeholders. So in the educational sectors, and even the recommendations and suggestions were invited from the stakeholders. And this happened. So it was during the NEP, like draft NEP 2019, that I can say. Now the draft, of course, the policy provided for the reforms at all levels, right from the school level to the higher education. And it also recommended for early childhood education care, that is the early childhood education, which was not a part of the formal education system, public formal education system, either two, which was maybe it was made available in the private sector or maybe in the private educational institutions, except the Anganwadis, which was not very formal structure as to say that. But early childhood care is become a part of the education system now in the 21st century. That is the new added up level that we can see. Apart from that, they have spoken about the current examination system, giving emphasis on maybe the students at the 5th standard, 8th standard, and the 10th and all that. And they also spoke about the strengthening of the teacher training programs and how the teacher training programs need to be revamped and move from the 2-year B.Ed programs or whatever the existing B.Ed programs to the 4-year integrated teacher education programs, so that we develop the professionalism among the teachers and equip them with the required competencies and skills needed to prepare the prospective citizens of the country. And apart from that, we could also see there was a lot of a focus in strengthening higher education, and we can see that there are different types of higher education institutions they have proposed. One is about only teaching universities, only research universities, the research and teaching universities, and whatever it is, the affiliation system to go in another 15 years, right? And every institution is going to become autonomous, and maybe the degree awarding this one, and the multidisciplinary approach. All these, there is a lot of focus was also given to higher education system. Now coming by, that was discussed a lot, and where the suggestions were invited from the stakeholders and from across the country. And then the final, the NEP 2020 was once again prepared. So this particular policy envisions the education system to be rooted in Indian ethos, which can contribute directly to transforming India, that is Bharat. Okay. So that what we want to just transform India into Bharat. We are talking about like transforming India into Bharat. We are talking about our culture, our heritage. We are talking about the value system. And we are speaking about a sustainability which is equitable, equitable. That means we are talking about inclusive education. We are talking about equality. We are talking about quality education to one and all. And also a very vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all, thereby making India a global knowledge superpower. So the focus once again, like we want to have a sustainable education system, a very equitable education system, providing equal access, quality education to each and every person, and giving every individual to be included in the fold of education. And apart from that, a vibrant knowledge society. In our vibrant knowledge society, where the knowledge, skills, and competencies which are required by the market, which is required for the real life management, or maybe for making life also a good quality life, for making a aware, informed citizenry. For all that, we want to provide a high quality education, and thereby we want to attain on the global map emerge as a knowledge superpower. So that is what the vision of NEP 2020 speaks about. And now if I just maybe not everything, I cannot give everything like what is there maybe in almost 400 and 60 pages, like maybe one or two highlights I have given here. So the national education policy, it speaks about India-centered education, transforming our nation into, that is the vision that I have already spoken about. And the report proposes an education policy which seeks to address the challenges of. So what are those challenges? Still, though we speak that we have attained 74% of the literacy, or some documents even climbing higher than that, but still there are some person, almost some 25, 26 to almost 28% of the population who remain outside the fold of this formal education. And it becomes very, very essential that we reach out to each and every individual by providing access to them. And equity is also another important aspect. That means irrespective of barriers of maybe region, religion, language, caste, creed, gender, like irrespective of that, an access has to be given to each and every person who's a part of this country or maybe the society, an equitable chance, opportunity to be equal chance and opportunity to be given by giving them a quality education. So when we speak about quality education, when it comes to higher education, and of course, definitely we all know that the RTI, now it is been extended from 14 years to 18 years, covering even up to +2 level. So definitely, like when you speak about the public education system, and definitely it will be a free education. When it comes to higher education, then the higher education should be made affordable, right? There has to be affordability on part of the people or maybe the stakeholder to see that the wards get educated, that the students get educated. So it has to be an affordable education and with the accountability. Maybe the accountability and the part of management, maybe the education system, maybe the teachers, or maybe the policy makers, or maybe the stakeholders, community and students as such, everyone need to have the accountability. If you pass the buck and if you say somebody else is responsible, we are not going to achieve the vision like what we have proposed in our NEP 2020. So each and every person, every stakeholder, and every policy maker, every teacher and manager and everyone need to be accountable. And these are some of the very, very important challenges that we are having, that we are facing in a current education system. And this report proposes, right, to address these type of challenges also. And not only that, and of course, we all know that this particular report consists of 4 important major parts, which deals with the school education, higher education, and additional key focus areas, right, and transforming education. And of course, we all know that teacher education is put under higher education. That is one of the important part. And apart from that, it has got certain addendums and also appendices. And it is also animated by a vision to create an India-centered education system that will lead to the creation of an equitable and vibrant knowledge society. So this is how our at the outset that the report is having, but these are the important segments that we can see the NEP 2020. And when we speak about maybe 1 or 2 more highlights of this 2020, that we want all our curriculum and pedagogy to be transferred by 2022 in order to minimize rote learning and instead encourage holistic development and 21st century skills. So of course, it's not that the rote learning that like any policy ever encouraged this type of any rote learning, right from since the beginning when we speak about the 1968 policy to 1980, 68, 86 or whatever it is, everywhere that the rote learning is being criticized, and then we wanted to have critical thinking. We wanted the education through a meaningful education. And even now also it is heavily criticized, maybe the rote memorization or learning. Instead, we want to have a constructivist approach in education. We want to encourage the holistic development of the children, and where for the holistic development of the children, definitely that we are not trying to compartmentalize the curriculum into curricular, co-curricular or extracurricular or moral activities, whether it is art, sports or yoga or education, science, technology, or whatever the subject that the paper that the child is going to study, everything need to be given equal importance. So that would lead to holistic development. We are talking about not just merely the cognitive development, we are talking about the physical, socio-emotional development, social development, everything. For that, we need to have a holistic curriculum also, and it requires that curriculum need to be transacted using different type of pedagogies. That definitely that invites for a lot of different changes in the use of pedagogies that we are having. And apart from that, our NEP 2020 speaks about development of 21st century skills, which are very, very important for the future citizens of this country to become the global citizens. May be very important, like probably even other policies spoke about the critical thinking, creativity, scientific temper, and communication. And apart from that, we are also speaking about certain other skills also, like collaboration, multilingualism, problem solving, ethics, social responsibility, and digital literacy. So this collaboration or networking and communication, they have become a very, very important skills in 21st century. We have a lot of media around us, including the social medias, wherein we are using it for collaboration, networking, for communication. And we need to develop like multilingualism, and even the NEP speaks about 3-language formula. And apart from that, it also speaks about among the 3 languages, we can also have a foreign language, like of course English is become a compulsory part. We can also have maybe German, French, Chinese, Korean, or something like that, and it's also spoken. We need to have a multilingualism, not only the national languages but international languages. And of course, problem solving ability is being emphasized right from beginning in the education system, and that we need to develop the strategies for developing these problem solving skills among students. And we need to have the ethics. We are talking about whether it is research, whether it is whatever it is, the plagiarism and all that. So if at all, if you are having a ethics and all that, we as teachers, as students, and as stakeholders, we need to follow whether it is academics or whether it is non-academics. So value system should be a very, should have a strong base among the students, right? And that is very essential. Apart from social responsibility, maybe as a citizen, maybe for a national development, or maybe towards tolerance, or maybe towards the environment. So we need to have social responsibility, and digital literacy is become a very important part of this 21st century. And all of us today, we are able to virtually connect together because of these digital tools which are available to us. And it becomes inevitably very essential for each and every teacher also to develop this digital literacy and use of these digital tools, as this pandemic has taught all the students as well as the teachers alike, whether we were ready or not. We have done our best, right? Like switching over our offline pedagogy to the online pedagogy, but it requires a lot more to learn. So the maybe developing the 21st century skill, digital literacy is considered to be one of the very important skill, which is required both for the teachers as well as for the students also. And now starting with the early years and the school education, it talks about major overhaul in the curriculum of early childhood care, and which concerns the preschoolers. Like, of course, we never focused on, like, though we had Anganwadi system, like of course in Karnataka, like the Anganwadi system is not a part of maybe the education department, but it is a part of the women and child welfare. Okay, so it is the Department of Women and Child Welfare which is holding that maybe the Anganwadi and all that, and now it is going to become part of education system. So it of course the NEP has given a lot of emphasis for early childhood education, and starting extension is right to education or RTE to cover children from age 3 to 18 years of age. Earlier it is 6 to 14 years earlier, and now we have come down another 3 more years. We have moved up for another 4 more years. So it is 3 to 18 years that it covers the students till the age of at present it was up to 14 years. Now we have moved up to 18 years. So that is the access that we have tried to provide to the children to start their education from 3 years and go up to higher secondary, which should be the right to education of every child, and that access to be provided to the children. And of course, that another important highlight all of us know as education is that there is a, like we had a 10+2+3 pattern of education followed all over. And now we are moving towards 5+3+3+4 curricular and pedagogical structure. We all know, like we are trying to divide it into foundational stage between the age group of 3 to 8 years, right? Which is 3 years of pre-primary plus grade 1 and 2. And then the preparatory stage, that is 5 years of education. Then 8 to 11 years, that is 1 year again, 3 years of education, that is grade 3 to 5. And then again, we have the middle stage education, that is 11 to 14 years, another 3 years of education, which is grade 6, 7, and 8. And finally, earlier we used to have a senior secondary or +2 stage, but now there is no separate nomenclature as +2 or senior secondary. Under secondary stage, we are going to cover 14 to 18 years, that is 4 years of education, which includes grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. So these are some of the very major changes that we can see with regard to the curricular structure, pedagogical changes, and maybe the RTI, maybe like what the Constitution guaranteed 6 to 14 years, and that is also under RTI it was changed, and now 3 to 4, 18 is being included as a part of the RTI, that is right to education. And now these were some of the very, very important highlights that we could find in NEP 2020. Like, what was the focus of this NEP 2020 on women education? So how much of importance was given to women education in NEP 2020? And of course, women's participation and education of girls to address the gender imbalance among school teachers and girl students. That means we need to look for what is the participation rate and what is the education of the girls, like the access, the enrollment, or maybe like whenever we want to address the issue of gender imbalance, we need to check for the participation of women as well as girls, whether it is women teachers, whether it is girl student, in all the sectors at all levels, and everything need to be focused. Now, what is the status of gender equality in India? This is just very, very, very little, not a too updated data, very little that I am speaking on gender equality. And definitely the preamble of our Indian Constitution, it says the nation's highest goal to be justice, equality, liberty, and fraternity to all its citizens. So as a fundamental right, when we speak about equality and liberty to all its citizens, so without discrimination to the gender, we are speaking about equality of men and women in all respects, in all aspects, in all the fields. And they have also spoken about the directives which are given to the state policy to prioritize the social and economic justice. So wherever you find the gaps, whether it is social, economic, educational, or whatever type of gaps that you see, political, and there are also directives which are available, right, which we call it as state policies, and they should give priority to these type of social and economic justice to see that whether there is a gender inequality, you need to take up certain schemes, or maybe you need to have certain strategies in place so that you can bring justice in gender equality. Okay, so the Constitution definitely speaks about equality of gender also when it speaks about justice, equality, and liberty and fraternity to all its citizens, which includes male and female. And despite that, though the Constitution speaks very clearly like equality of both the genders in all respects, but still constitutional goals dedicated to reversing social and economic inequalities, the lived realities of marginalized population show deep disparities, deprivations, and a continuum of violations. In spite of the fact that we are having the constitutional goals, but in reality, when you see that there are a lot of population who are deprived population, or maybe there are also marginalized groups, including women. Even in the deprived population, even in the marginalized group, women are much more deprived and much more marginalized. And there is a lot of, we can see the violations with regard to the gender equality. And definitely, no doubt that we all know that women make up, of course, like earlier it was 50-50 ratio, but now that women make up little less than half of the India's population as per the census of 2011 that we are talking about, maybe 48.5% female as regard to the 51.5% of the male. As we know, like why this there is a lessening or reduction of the female population. We speak about, I don't want to enter into any sort of debate. We know we are speaking a lot. There are also concerns that we are also having like a fetus, female fetus, there's a lot of the things like issues with regard to going on, and that is the reason that we are having the central schemes like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and all that. So that that is also one of the schemes in order to maintain the gender equality, because the ratio that we can see that the ratio is deteriorating from 50-50, that it is gone to 48.5%. So now, as we all know, as I said, the only scheme for women under the major programs under central plan is the Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao campaign. And when we are talking about the lot of issues, when we speak about so many types of periodic reports on women and LGBTI issues, that was in 2012 and 16. And there are almost 183 organizations, networks, as well as individuals. They spoke about how that the women and maybe the other marginalized genders which are there, they need to be bring to the mainstream, and not many schemes are available for bringing women to the mainstream, except there is one central scheme which is Beti Bachao, that is in order to stop any type of female feticide, right? And Beti Padhao, we want to talk about the women education. So Beti Padhao is a women education. So when we say that Beti Padhao women education, how much that NEP 2020 has spoken about women education, we will see. So in face of increasing privatization of essential basic services and an over expanding private and transnational presence in the market, equal opportunity and non-discrimination principles must be enforceable vis-a-vis the private sector. So when we speak about privatization and transnational presence in the market, we are having the international institutions, international corporate companies, MNCs, and educational institutions, and all that. So we need to ensure that there is an equal opportunity to both men and women without any sort of discrimination to work. But still we will see that there is a severe underrepresentation of women in employment as well as in the legislative bodies. When it comes to representing maybe like the very, very high post, maybe in the very big corporate companies, or maybe the such type of MNCs, or when it comes to the legislative bodies, or maybe the political participation, but still we see a severe underrepresentation of women in these type of bodies. So even in a very, very highly developed country like America, it never saw a woman president and all. And very recently, that it is a very, very welcoming one, that the first time that there is a woman vice president is being elected, that there is a lot of mindset changes which are happening. And we are also very happy that the vice president is of Indian origin. So we need to see more and more women legislatives, right, as well as representing very high level, like maybe the employment sector also, which is right now it is underrepresented. So when we are talking about prioritizing the gender, right, so we are talking about gender mainstreaming, right, mainstreaming, and we are talking about gender equality perspective across all policy areas. So one of the very, very important policy, like a professor of politics, when she spoke about international relations, she said every policy or piece of legislation should be evaluated from the perspective of whether or not it reduces or increases gender inequalities. So we need to, she speaks about being a professor of politics, like whenever we are putting in place any policy or any legislation, we need to evaluate whether from the perspective of whether it is going to reduce the gender inequality or whether it is going to increase the gender inequality. So any policy that that is going to be in place need to be evaluated before that any legislation is passed. So only thereby we can speak about equality in the genders. So of course, the concept of gender equality is not limited to formal equality. It includes as well equality de facto, which is a more holistic approach to gender policy in order to tackle the interconnected causes that create an unequal relation between the sexes in all areas of life, whether it is work, politics, sexuality, culture, violence. So we need to, it is not just merely bringing women into main sector, giving access to education, or just creating employment. We need to change the whole mindset. There has to be a complete equality when it comes to that means reducing the violence, or have the freedom to maybe having with regard to the sexuality, deciding about the marriage, deciding about the choosing a partner, or deciding about the number of children, not the in-laws, not the husband, not the parent, or maybe to work or to join politics or whatever it is. So it has to be a de facto, it has to be a holistic approach when we speak about the gender policy. And now, how is woman is reflected in National Education Policy or National Policy of Education 2020? What are the prospects and what are the opportunities that they are having, and what is it? So the prospects and opportunity, maybe like one or two slides, like when we speak about the prospects and opportunities, and thereby like how, whether that particular prospects and opportunities are enough for women in order to achieve gender equality, whether it is underrepresented, focus is not much given. So we will see it. So this particular national education policy has equity as one of its founding goals and gender as a cross-cutting theme. So when it speaks about equity, equity of all types of like non-discrimination, whether it is region, religion, it cut across, of course, including gender, like it is a founding goal. We are talking about an inclusive society, but still a closer look at recommendations, proposed equity, inducing initiatives and use of vocabulary renders its intent of establishing gender equality weak and vague. When it looks at it, like in order to reduce, when we are talking about equality, when we try to see like how that policy has tried to reduce the gender inequality, and whatever the intent of the national education policy document is there, that intent may be very, very good, but still we can see a very, very weak space, or maybe the strategies which are suggested, and it is very, very vague, not very clear with regard to what exactly and how much and how and why, right? And such things are not very elaborately discussed in NEP 2020. So definitely NEP 20 is guilty of envisioning gender equality by focusing on female students with a brief discussion of including transgender children in schools. That means there is a very, very little references made with regard to the female students, when there was a paragraph which is discussing about the female students, which also includes the transgender children in the schools. So definitely when we talk about female student, and it said that access needs to be provided to these female students, like we are having the Kasturba Gandhi schools, and they said that this Kasturba Gandhi schools need to be improved, and these Kasturba Gandhi schools and need to be taken up to senior secondary, higher secondary, so that female students enroll into that, right? And apart from that, when it comes to the teacher training program, it spoke about like we need to attract the rural students, girl students, especially these teacher training programs, to the scholarships, and they should be given an employment opportunity in their local setup, so that they can become the role models and all that. And here and there we could see that there is little passing. It is as good as like a passing remark when it came to women education. There was no separate like as we say, like various chapters found a place in the NEP 2020. We did not see a separate chapter on NEP in NEP 2020, like speaking about women education. Like we spoke about higher education or school education or maybe teacher education, like vocational education, technical or other type of education. There should have been a separate chapter devoted to women education with very clear and more focus and schemes and and all that. And they are just maybe mentioning of in chapter 4 or 6 under school education or preparation of teachers, we can find a reference to female students access and education. And there is a conspicuous absence of any mention of male students with a gender in education. Whenever there was that female students, when it is protection of female students, right of female student, or maybe access of female student, and everything has to be given in reference to the male students. When we say protection of female child from any sort of atrocities or any sort of, and we need to speak about like how should the male children or male students be oriented, how should they be, their mindset need to be changed, and what should be done. And that we find that there is an absence of any mention of any such things whenever it came to the gender in education. And the fact that boys too grow up with a gendered identity rooted in notions of masculinity and superiority over other genders seems to have been ignored, if not negated. So it is not being taken into consideration. So whenever it comes to male and female, and I don't know whether they are the culture or traditions that a male child is given an upper hand and considered to be superior over the female child. When we speak about the equality of gender and this mindset, this notion of masculinity and also the superiority over the other gender, that also need to be changed. Until and unless you bring a change in the mindset of boys and in the whole system, it's not possible that we achieve the equality. And we feel that the NEP hasn't spoken about any such type of mindset or change or with regard to maybe the other gender, and if not negated, but it is being ignored or doesn't find a place. So when it comes to girls and education, the NEP 2020, chapter 6, when it spoke about the equitable and inclusive education learning for all, 6.2, it recognizes the need for socio-economically disadvantaged groups. When spoke about socio-economically disadvantaged groups, under that, we can just find another broad categorized based on gender identities, which is particularly female and transgender children. And it is here they have spoken, like when we spoke about these type of groups, under those group, female child as well as maybe transgenders, they found a reference like they should be given access, education and all that. And while overall enrollment in schools declines steadily from grade 1 to grade 12, this decline in enrollment is significantly more pronounced for many of these socio-economically disadvantaged groups, with even greater declines for female students within each of these SEDGs, and often even steeper in higher education. This is what we find in the 2020 document, that they say that there is a decline grade 1 to grade 12 in the enrollment ratio, and especially for a socio-economically disadvantaged groups. And even within the socio-economically disadvantaged group, this decline is greater with regard to the female students. When it comes to higher education, it is much more steeper. So this is the issue which is definitely, which is recognized by NEP 2020. But when there is a decline, especially by the female students, when it comes to steeper decline in higher education, nothing is being spoken with regard to what should be, how should the gender equality be maintained in higher education, including technical, legal, or scientific, or maybe the medical education. So now it is just restricted only to the school education. And it has also recommended building scientific temper and evidence-based thinking throughout the curriculum. And it has also said that we know historically there is a gap between genders and how number of women in science, technology, what we call it as STEM, research and higher education. The UNESCO corroborates this when it says that globally, less than 30% of the world researchers are women. So the NEP 2020 has not taken cognizance of it. So all over the world, it is less than 30%. So in our country, it is much more lesser when it comes to women in these higher education sector. And we do not find any reference to any sort of like maybe the suggestions or maybe recommendations or strategies to be in place when it comes to this type of STEM or even in higher education. It hasn't taken cognizance of it. So And also we can see that the national of 2016-17 mentions in 15-16 only 9.3% female students enrolled in engineering and technology, right, as compared to 15.9% male students. So it is the society, and it is usually we encourage the boys or the male children for the pursuing maths and science as compared to maybe the female children when it comes to the professional education, and the discrimination begins at the secondary level. And here we say that NEP has not made any provision for closing this gap when it comes to higher education or professional education. And definitely schools tend to become, and the NEP speaks about it. There is a paragraph that we will see. Schools tend to become the sites of gender power relations and a site where labeling and discrimination takes place against girls in general, along with those who belong to categories such as scheduled caste girls, rural girls, tribal girls, girls with physical or mental disabilities. Further marginalization occurs within the schools. So it is when it is spoken very clearly, like where the discrimination and marginalization is happening, especially it is with regard to the gender when it comes to the scheduled tribes, rural, tribal, physical, mental disability, marginalization is considered to be much more. So when it speaks about this type of issue and this type of discrimination, but nothing is being spoken with regard to the schemes to be in place to probably compensate or to close these type of gaps, or to give any special facilities to the children. And we will also see that there is a mention of women and mother are expected to provide the majority of those who work to improve literacy and numeracy skill. This concern for recruiting female students and other women is found up to the school level, but evaporates as we move higher up the educational hierarchy. As I said, improving literacy, numeracy skills, they said women and mothers expected to provide majority of these who are going to work for that, because by educating a girl, you are educating a whole family and you are educating a society. That is the reason that we want to give education to the female child, not when it comes to higher education for making a scientist, for making a great, maybe an engineer or a SI or something else. And it is only to see that the family or the society, the quality improves. So thereby by improving the quality of education of the girl's child at the school level. And surprisingly, given the supposedly forward-looking 21st century perspective of document, is that women's education is not regarded as a right, but is justified primarily in terms of the supposedly greater good than it will yield. So here we can also see that the document speaks about, right? So the education of women is not seen as an investment, and education of women is not seen from the perspective of as a matter of right, but they have justified saying that it is very much required as a greater good for the good of the family, for the society, that it is going to yield. And that is not going to establish the right of the woman or the gender equality. And girls' access to these education, and especially when it comes to when it comes to disrupting poverty as well as violence, promoting community health and well-being, we are talking about that women, if you are educated, they are going to do all these things which can be carried on to the next generation. It is good that it is going to disrupt poverty. It is good that we are going to promote the community health and well-being. It is good that it is going to foster development, but to the next development. But it is not seen as a matter of right, and not seen as a matter of women being great politicians, or maybe as professionals, or as scientists, or anything. And that is a disheartening, or that we are going to see in this NEP 2020. And now when it comes to this sexual harassment, it is just found that it is like a passing remark. And here we can see offenders are identified as miscreants who are to be disciplined. So when it comes to sexual harassment, there should have been an elaborate discussion how and what of it, and what should be the punishment, and how they should be protected, and what should be the strategies, and who should be oriented properly? Nothing. So when it comes to sexual harassment, the people whoever it is who involved in this, they are just called as miscreants that need to be disciplined. How they should be disciplined is not been spoken about. Neither the long-term any structural mechanisms with regard to the sensitization, or for men or whoever it is, maybe the stakeholders, it finds no space with either in the draft or maybe in the final policy. It remains a very vague illusion. As we know that if you want that the both genders learn to respect each other's sexuality or safety or whatever it is, both the genders should learn to respect each other, and that need to be developed right from the childhood, that these mindsets need to be developed, and that doesn't find a place that we can see. And while we are told that there is a need to changing the mindset and halting harmful practices to foster gender equity and inclusion. So when we say that harmful practices, the NEP 2020 speaks about harmful practices, and these harmful practices need to be halted, And what are those harmful practices and how that should be halted is not been spoken about. And we find that that should have been spoken about when it comes to the hygiene, menstrual hygiene, transport, and toilet. And it is a 21st century document. As an Indian tradition, we shy away from mentioning such type of things or alternate to the sexual orientations, and not much is elaborately spoken with regard to the hygiene or maybe the gender sensitization. And instead, we have some advice on adolescent problems faced by growing boys and girls. So there's a lot of it is in the form of advice. Advice doesn't help. We need to have it as an equality or as a right, and there need to be some schemes or certain facilities or strategies, or there need to be certain type of further legislations, and it should find funding. It should find special arrangements for higher education, for professional education of women, and maybe whether it is harassment in workplace or maybe sexual harassment or the changing the mindset. So there should have been a lot more spoken in the NEP 2020, which we feel that it is missing. So closing the gender gap has been envisioned by increasing access to education for girls and ensuring their safety, lack of discrimination. So interventions to systematically create gender sensitive and gender equal mindsets of boys have been missed. Though they speak about we need to increase access to education for girls, we need to ensure the safety, so we need to have non-discrimination. But how do we go about that? What should be the interventions, and how systematically we should create a gender sensitive society and gender equal mindsets of boys and girls? And that is we find missing when it comes to the NEP 2020. And the section on gender sensitization in schools that entails a mandate to conduct awareness sessions on gender issues to break stereotype gender roles, on the importance of harassment-free environments and equal treatment of genders, on legal protection and entitlements for girls and women. It makes no reference to the need to undo the constant socialization of young boys to acquire traits of strength and masculinity. So when we are speaking about all these things, there has to be legal protection, there has to be entitlements for girls and all that. There should have been, like we are having a socialization practice as a culture or as a tradition, that we like to develop the traits of strength and masculinity, and many at times leading a mindset that the other gender are weak when we talk about masculinity, when we are talking about strength, and we are talking about the other gender to be weak. So it has the socialization process also need to when it comes to the young boys need to be changed when we speak about strength and masculinity. And this does not document does not speaks about any such type of socialization or change of mindsets. And the protection of the children. So of course, definitely the protection of the children has been put in place for sexual offences against the children, not limited to any particular gender, has been interpreted as a legal protection for girls and women. And of course, like protection of children from sexual offences. So it can be either gender, but when it comes to the NEP, they have interpreted it legal protection to girls and women. And the emphasis on ensuring safety and security of girls attending school is a much needed step. So the effort to get transgender children to schools, however, there are rudimentary steps. They cannot be only major policy directives to establish gender equality in education. When we are talking about the security, safety, and the needed steps, whether it is female education or transgender children, if you want to provide access and retention and quality education and all that, there should have been very clear-cut interventions rather than just the rudimentary steps which are spoken in NEP 2020. And policy speaks of efforts to give girls equal access to education by addressing societal obstacles, but however, it remains silent on the role of boys and men in establishing a gender equal education system. So like we need to address societal obstacles. When it comes to societal obstacle, does it say that when it comes to a professional education, when there are scarcity of resources, where the boys are preferred to have a higher education or professional education over a girl? And does it say that both should be given equal importance, or girls should be given priority over boys, or boys should be? So it doesn't speak about, it stays silence when it comes to giving access to education. And it also fails to acknowledge boys are systematically socialized into becoming men. So this is what I spoke about, the mindset, the socialization of the children. And also when we spoke about the draft, it spoke about having female role models for girls. Why should we have only the female role models? Can't we have even the male role models for a female? Can't a father be a role model? Can't be a brother be a role model? Can a male teacher be a role model? So if at all, if you want to change the societal mindsets, it is for a woman's role, we need to speak about gender equality, where we should have role models for both men and women, and women should also be role models, not just merely for girls, but also for boys. And just like that, the male should be role models, not merely for male, but also for the female children, right? Whether it's starting from the family, maybe the characteristics, maybe the moral, maybe the value system, maybe the ethics, maybe the social responsibility, maybe the hardworking, which the father, maybe the brother, or maybe you see any male partners, or maybe the male acquaintances around you, need to be once again imitated, need to be once again acquired. So you should not create such type of ripple by saying that female role models should be there for female girls and role models can only be females. So it has, when we are talking about gender equality, female role models can be there for both good boys and girls, and there can be a female teacher, can be a role model, maybe for the punctuality, maybe for the intelligence, maybe for their good work, maybe for their whatever. The various value systems can be boys as well as for the girls. So we need to encourage from the either gender, irrespective of male, female, but for boys and girls, both to inspire and to motivate and to take on the value system and learn from each other, whereas the document speaks about female role models to inspire or to motivate girls only. And a similar thought about having male role models for boys, because since they have not setting an example, a gender sensitive to practicing respect for all genders did not cross the minds of makers of this particular draft, which was later put into final. So when they spoke about, so they have not said male should have the role models for boys. So then why there should be only role models, female role models only for girls? And free and compulsory education cannot happen without the provisions of a grist from the school. The government may call it realistic and progressive when it said it approved for child labor for children younger than 14 years in family business. So there are multiple provisions are made for exit from the school also when it comes to child labor, whenever they have a family business, and if they cannot continue, if you make it mandatory, they may not come to school. So there has to be exit point. But at the same time, they have forgotten when it comes to the lack of interest, lack of motivation, and due to migration and all that, especially, and it is the female child who is taken out of the school, maybe for various reasons. And when we say that the girls drop out every year, so when they attain puberty, and when there is a fact that education is not considered for them as compulsory, rather than either the domestic work or maybe the marriages, when such type of exit points are given in the school, more than the male child, maybe it is the female child who is taken out, maybe in the age group of the said age group, when it comes to marriage or domestic work. And we also, it is also ignored when it comes to talking about 60% of child abuses which have been reported in Delhi in one of the documents which I say, and these incidents are from schools. So whenever we are talking about so many sexual abuse, nearly 60% are from the schools. And when the real number may be much more rather than what is being reported, because there are so many families when it involves a female child, they don't want to make a complaint and they don't want to report it. So the number may be much more when it comes to this particular complaints. And maybe there is no redressal or complaints when, and not children are taught what is good touch or a bad touch. Though nowadays there are so many institutions, schools, and maybe NGOs, and the psychologists, educationists, and they are speaking aloud, like the children to be taught right from beginning, whether it is a male or a female child. They need to be taught like very formally, like what is a good touch and what is a bad touch, and all such things should find a place, should have found a place in our policy, like when it comes to speaking about child abuse. And now just a few suggestions that I have given, keeping this type of missing or vague things which are spoken with regard to the women education, or maybe with regard to the women safety. There should have been, we should have ensured women specific schemes to receive sufficient budgetary allocations from the center without devolving the responsibility to the discretion of the states. So there should have been very specific recommendation when it comes to various schemes, like budgetary allocation should have been properly recommended for these without leaving it to the states. There should have been a proper recommendations for budgetary allocations for women specific schemes, and gender responsive budgeting on the basis of consultative cross sectoral situational analysis from a gender lens. That should have been done in order to monitor, in order to see what is the impact of these schemes on gender, or maybe the involvement of probably the other gender, or maybe women or female. And finally, the fields of study with such women studies or gender studies which have developed in challenging ways over the last 3 or 4 decades and are extremely vibrant need to find space and active encouragement. Additionally, need to be supported rather than marginalized. So the policy should have focused much more encouragement on maybe the research on gender studies, research on women studies, and there should have been a lot of support for maybe the women researchers, or maybe the gender studies, whether not only women researchers, it can also be male researchers, but there should be budgetary allocations for such type of research should have been supported, and should have been encouraged rather than marginalized. That would have really helped us to understand the gender perspective or the women's perspective in a better way. And so in conclusion, I can just only say that UNESCO believes all forms of discrimination based on gender are violation of human rights, as well as a significant barrier to achievement of 2020 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So when we are talking about the human rights, So all types of discrimination, including gender, that's a violation of human rights. We need to remember this when we are talking about your women education or perspective. And the message should be that, like when we are talking about the education of women, it has to be clear that women and men must enjoy equal. What equal? The message should be clear that men and women should enjoy equal opportunities, equal choices, equal capabilities, power and knowledge as equal citizens. So this is what we want when we speak about gender perspective. When we speak about, like when we want to give like a gender perspective or women perspective through education, the opportunities, the choices, capabilities, the power, as well as knowledge. Like knowledge in any level, at any level, in any sector, maybe at any type of education. Power when it comes to whether it is political, whether it is academic, or development of capabilities and freedom for having the choices and opportunities and access, they should enjoy as equal citizens. So this is what that we want. We need to equip both girls as well as boys, as well as women and men with knowledge, values, attitudes, and skills to tackle gender disparity, which is a precondition for building a sustainable future for all. You cannot only speak about girls and keeping in isolation with the other group. It has to be both girls and boys, men and women. They should be equipped with the knowledge, values, attitudes, and skills which are required for tackling this gender disparity. And it is a precondition for building any sustainable development or maybe a sustainable future for everyone in any society. So thank you so much. Thank you. That I have just tried to be very fast. I did not elaborate on some of the slides which I could have done it. Now I will leave it to the participants to probably for making their observations with regard to the NEP 2020. They can add their observations or any clarifications or any questions. I would like to respond to them. So thank you again. You are welcome to ask any questions. Thank you so much. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Sunita, Professor Amrutavalli.
For your deliberation.
Hello. Yes, sir, Dr. Sunita Bai. I think maybe any questions? Yeah, please.
Madam, there is a question.
Yeah.
There is a question. There was a question from Padma Shri.
Okay.
There is no priority or chapter related to women education in NEP 2020.
Yeah.
Today, is it not the real need for women education compassing the hapless, unfortunate happenings right from the girlhood to womanhood?
Yeah, I do definitely agree with you, Miss Padmaja, who has raised a question. That is what my concern was also, that there should have been a separate chapter devoted to the women issue as well as for women education. That is missing in NEP document 2020. We could see here and there just the passing remarks. Very little is spoken about women education. When it comes to women education, it has been restricted only to the access, only to the school education by improving or maybe accelerating or maybe improving the Kasturba Gandhi schools and access to these girls' education, or when it comes to the safety, when it comes to protection and all that. So very vague and very simple remarks have been made, and without any strong recommendations with regard to any schemes or with regard to any type of programs which will have any budgetary allocations, and definitely right from girls to women, you should have found a separate chapter. I do fully agree with you, and which is not being done probably. And it is the Mahila Padmavati University has taken up this issue of speaking about the women education perspective. This is one platform where we are trying to ventilate our and we are expressing our views. This NEP 2020 has not done. It's guilty of not giving the space which was required for maybe building the motivation, the encouragement, or maybe the education of women, not only restricted to school education, but in higher education as well as in all these STEM courses. So definitely, I would say that NEP has not done a justice when it comes to women education. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. There are no questions.
Yeah. There are no more questions?
Thank you.
No questions?
No more, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, madam. Now I request Dr. T. Sirisha, madam, to propose vote of thanks for this session. Over to you, madam. Thank you, Anuradha. Good afternoon, one and all. On behalf of Department of Education and Sri Padmavati Mahila Vishwavidyalaya Tirupati, I take an opportunity to propose formal vote of thanks to Professor Hasin Taj Madam, Professor and Dean, Faculty of Education, Bangalore University. First of all, I thank you, ma'am, for readily accepting our invitation for being as resource person for this webinar. At the outset, madam have deliberated on women education NEP 2020, a critical result. Madam have shared the knowledge with self-expressive, informative and prompt PPTs. We can assure that the knowledge shared by madam will have a need to the participants in their forthcoming future. Thank you, ma'am, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and meet all of you virtually, right? I wish you a very, very happy day and God bless all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Omtali and all the organizing team. God bless all of you and all the participants. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
I thank Dr. G. Sunita ma'am, program convener, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, ma'am. And now I request Sunita ma'am to take over the program. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Sirisha. Good afternoon, one and all. Now it's time to thank those who are responsible for the success of this webinar. Foremost, I thank my university administrators, our beloved Vice Chancellor, Professor D. Jamina, Rector, Professor K. Sanjarani ma'am, Registrar, Professor D. M. Mamata ma'am, Dean, School of Social Sciences, Humanities and Management, Professor T. Bharati, for giving us permission and continuous encouragement for the conduction of this need of our webinar. On behalf of Department of Education, SPMVV, I am very glad to express gratitude for the resource persons, participants, and my dear colleagues in organizing the seminar entitled Women Education Perspectives. Everybody are aware of this. I am assured by this webinar that all the participants have gained knowledge regarding women education perspectives in the light of NEP 2020 key focus areas, that is gender entities through critical appraisal. Deliberations by the resource persons were very excellent with self-expressive PPTs and video recordings of experiences and critical approach of NEP 2020. I would like to convey my heartfelt thanks to all the resource persons, Professor Kannan Maudgalya and Professor Asin Taz ma'am, for their readily acceptance our invitation of short notice. Along with the participants, we have received all the necessary knowledge and vocational education training courses for women empowerment through experiential learning and overview and highlights of NEP 2020 related to women education through gender entities and prospects and opportunities to achieve gender equality. Thank you very much, ma'am and sir. I'll fail in duty if I do not thank the participants. The participants gave overwhelming participation, which depicts your thirst for updating of knowledge. Thank you, all the participants. My sincere gratitude goes to the co-conveners, organizing committee members who are always with me by their continuous support and encouragement. Especially, I would like to thank Professor T.J. Amadvalli ma'am for her regular support and wishes it is possible to organize this seminar. Thank you, Amada ma'am, and my dear colleague friends. Thank you very much. Without you all, this program would not be successful. I thank Dr. Maruti and N. Santisudha for their supportive roles in this webinar. Last but not least, I would thank all the technical staff for their support and needful help for success of the webinar. Thank you, one and all. There is a small announcement for the participants. The feedback link will be provided in the chat box. After filling up the feedback forms, automatically you will receive the certificate. Now, let us join for national anthem.
यमुना गंगा उज्जल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।